you know between you and me? Oh, I got two here. Good evening. Good evening, Cerritos residents and members of our community. I would like to call to order the Monday, December 22, 2025, 7 o'clock p.m. City Council special meeting. The invocation will be given by Father John Cordero of Holy Family Catholic Church, and the pledge will be led by Troop 394. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Father John Cordero.
Thank you for this opportunity to join you today to begin this council meeting just before the Christian celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. In accordance to my Catholic faith tradition, we begin our prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty Father, in you we live, we move, and have our being. You are the source of all that is good, true, and just. We acknowledge your providence and guidance. Trusting in that same providence, we ask you to guide the proceedings of this city council meeting. May the discussions and the possible decisions that will be inspired by tonight's dialogue be motivated by the desire to seek the truth and justice and serve the common good of the communities here in the city of Cerritos. In confidence and faith, we lift this prayer to you who lives and reigns forever and ever. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please place your right hand over your heart. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Troop 394. Can you please tell us your names and what grade and what school you go to, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Inia Sarvanen. I am a junior at Whitney High School. I am a Life Scout working towards Eagle, and I'm currently SPL of Troop 394.
Hi, my name is Nakshatra Bonda. I'm an 8th grader at Whitney High School. In my troop, I serve as a quartermaster, and I'm a first-class scout.
Hi, my name is Sahana Naresh, and I go to Leal Elementary, and I'm in 6th grade, and I'm a safety master for Troop 394G.
Thank you
Hi,
for
my
helping them.
name is Aradhana Naresh. I'm in 4th grade and I go to Leal Elementary. I'm in Troop 394 and I'm currently a Weblo.
Hi, my name is Kavya Saravanan. I go to Whitman Elementary and I'm a 4th grader. I am currently ranked as a Weblo Scout.
Hi, my name is Prahas Banda. I go to Leal Elementary and I'm a 3rd grader. I'm in Troop 394G and currently ranked as a Bear Scout.
Thank you, Troop 394 and Father Cordero. Could you guys please wait for a little bit? Thank you to the attendees of this meeting. I know that I'm aware that the agenda report came out shortly before the meeting. Would any of the attendees of this meeting like a little bit of time to read the agenda report or get a copy of the agenda report? I directed the city clerk's office to bring more copies of the agenda report to the meeting. Would any of the attendees here like more time to read the agenda report or get a copy of the agenda report? Otherwise, I will continue the meeting. Okay, I see some hands. So we'll take, let me see what time it is. It's 7:10, so we will continue the meeting at 7:20. That will give time for the clerk to come back with more copies of the agenda report, and for those of you to have a chance to look it over. So we will continue the meeting at 7:20. Father John and Troop 394, will you join the city council over here to take a photo? And we will continue this meeting at 7:20 after the clerk is able to bring more copies of the agenda report and give the public and all of you attendees a chance to look it over. Madam Assistant City Clerk, will you please conduct the roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Hong,
Here.
Councilmember Polito, Councilmember Say,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Present.
Mayor Yokoyama.
Here. The next item is 5A, C4 well status and proposed emergency repair. City Manager, do we have a report on this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Staff has been made aware of an urgent repair item that's needed at one of the city's 3 water wells. We're prepared tonight this evening to make a recommendation to award a contract to repair and also associated budget amendments. The presentation overview of this item will be given by Director of Public Works, Alvin Papa, and following his presentation, he and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, City Manager Lopez. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight I'll be discussing the status of the recent critical failure of the C4 well, the loss of water supply, and the proposed emergency repair. So this is something that back in October, we noticed that we did have issues, and recently we identified a solution, and that's what we're going to be discussing today, along with all of the different impacts associated with the failure and how we're going to address them. So with regards to the C4 well, it's approximately 50 years old, and the well had its pump replaced back in 2022. In spring 2022, there was actually a emergency repair that was done back then due to a similar issue that we're experiencing today. So in spring 2022, the C4 well was experiencing gravel and silt entering the well through the casing. Eventually, they identified that there was damage to the casing, and the casing was also getting plugged up. Ultimately, staff worked with the contractor's well contractor at the time, General Pump, to perform the repair. The repair that was performed included installing a liner inside the existing casing, and that reduced the interior diameter of the well, but it still allowed us to operate the well. The repair at that time was $552,000 is approximately what was spent. Since then, the well has been running adequately, and the staff understands that the well is near the end of its useful life. So there is a project that's approved in the CIP to replace the well. There is $16 million that is included in the CIP to build a new treatment system to address the arsenic, manganese, and PFAS located on site. We'll also be replacing the chlorine room. Currently, there is gaseous chlorine, and we'll be installing a liquid chlorine system. And then we'll also need to build a new well. That new well, that the casing has about 8 years of life left. So this new project would install a new well. So in essence, a new hole going 1,000 feet underground, and that would be on the same well site, just about 100 feet away. So design of that project began in March 2025, and we estimate to have design complete in spring 2027 and look to potentially award that project for construction in mid-2027 and complete the project in 2029. Recently, we had a critical failure at the C4 well. So on October 5th, there were reports from staff that we were getting a lot of gravel into the well. So what staff did is they rested the well. So in essence, they turned off the pump, let everything settle within the well, and then they started running the well intermittently. And that's an operational procedure that staff will do when they first encounter issues like this to try, hoping that it's just a minor problem. But later in mid-October, they continued to have more and more gravel coming in, as well as silt. And then that's when staff knew that, hey, this is not just a minor problem, this is a more serious issue. So staff called our well contractor, General Pump, to come in and take a look. On October 28th, they took the wellhead off, which is the pump and the equipment that helps pump the water out of the ground. They took that off and they brought that back to their shop and for a tear down. So they take all their equipment, they open it up, they try to figure out what's wrong, and they also inspect it to see whether or not it could be reused and put back in service. At the same time, if you look on the photo above, there is that blue hole. That's actually covering that 1,000-foot deep hole. So they ran a camera down the entire length of the well casing, or the well liner that's in there now, and reviewed the video to identify any potential issues. And at this time, this is when staff started purchasing some of the more expensive imported water from the Central Basin Municipal Water District. And so up above are some of the photos. What you see there in that cylinder is called a sand separator. So normally when we pump up water, we'll have small, fine sand that will come out. And typically we'll get a grayish sand that's very fine. What's coming out looks like pebbles. And then it's going around and it's damaging the sand separator, and then it's ending up in our system. The main issue with those pebbles is we know that through the screen, that's larger than the size of the screen that we installed in the liner in the well. So that's indicative of a hole. And what we also found is when General Pump did their inspection, they found a hole 600 feet deep in the well liner. What they also found is 26 feet of that same type of fill material at the bottom of the well. So we know it's coming in. And had we continued to operate the well, that gravel and silt would continue to rush into the well, be pulled up into our sand separator, and will also fall down into the bottom of the well, reducing its capacity. And so associated with the failure of this well is the loss of water. We rely on the C4 well to produce about 24 to 2,500 acre feet of water per year. And so normally, when all three city wells are operating normally, we should be able to pump 100% of the city's groundwater need. The groundwater cost is $450 per acre foot. Starting on January 1st, 2026, imported water costs increase to $1,698. So when we compare the estimated annual cost of taking water from our groundwater well versus pulling it in from imported water from the Central Basin, it's $1.1 million of groundwater cost versus $4.1 million of imported water costs. Ultimately, that's a difference of approximately $3 million in additional costs for water if we pump solely imported water for the year. And that's approximately $8,219 a day. As I mentioned in the previous slide, our contractor identified a hole at 600 feet below the ground surface and identified accumulated fill material at the bottom of the well, approximately 26 feet deep. So with regards to the proposed work, the contractor proposes that we patch the well so they can take pieces of steel and block off the sections that are damaged to prevent that material from coming in. This will slightly reduce the capacity of our well, but the well would be able to continue to be operated. There is, I'd say, packing material between the original 18-inch casing and the inner 16-inch liner. That would have to be reconsolidated, and we'd have to add more material and compact that to make sure that we can stabilize the well. And then we'd also perform chemical cleaning. And so what they would do is they would put chemicals in and they scrub the well. And that's because a lot of that silt and sand has clogged a lot of the pores in the casing of the well. And so when water can't enter through all areas of the well, it finds an area that it enters, but it will enter even faster. And if you remember erosion from your from high school or from middle school, water that flows faster erodes faster. So if the well casing is plugged up, water will find ways to enter. It will enter at a higher speed, and those holes and perforations could get damaged and open up even more because it's an old well. And so the chemical cleaning is highly recommended to be done to ensure that we can maximize the capacity and reduce damage. We also plan to install an access pipe for future inspections. So this is a pipe that would be installed so that they can easily drop a camera in the future and be able to inspect without having to pull the pump head. And then the last order of work is reinstalling the pump head and the pump material. So the hope is that the pump is still in good condition, has not been compromised, and that they can refurbish it and put it back into service. The estimated cost of the repair is $5,059,270. Staff is proposing a 15% construction contingency, and that's because a lot of, on these types of projects, a lot of every single phase will discover something new and something different, and there's a lot of unknowns and unforeseens that we're going to have to plan for. And so the total cost of the project will be $643,000 approximately to perform the full repair. Even after the repair is done, the contractor is advised that staff will need to plan for a reduced capacity of 1,500 GPM. So normally we would run the pump at 2,500 gallons per minute. He's advising that we run it slower to preserve what we have left and to prevent any future damage. So this is about a 40% reduction in the capacity of our well. The city is going to have to purchase imported water supply to make up for that loss of capacity. And then overall, in the big scheme of things, we know that we have a project in the books to replace the C4 well. We estimate about $4.7 million in import water purchases until the C4 well replacement project is in place and the well pump that's pumping water is taken offline. There's a couple of recommendations, and I'll walk through each one. So first, we review and discuss the critical failure of the C4 well and the presentation today. Authorize the city manager to execute an amendment for the on-call maintenance and repair services for water wells, booster pumps, assemblies, and gear drives. I think that was actually removed from the presentation, so from the recommendation, my apologies, that should not be there. Oh, it is. Okay, sorry about that. And then authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $643,000 from the C4 emergency well repair by transferring funds from the Swim Fitness Center rehabilitation project. So we have a project in the CIP that was geared to replace the boiler over at the Swim and Fitness Center. The swimming pool was having issues with the boiler going out and programs being impacted. And so currently the project has not started and a notice to proceed has not been issued to the contractor. Due to changes in the building code, the plans needed to be revised. And as such, we've been revising the plans and working with our building department. Should we cancel the project and unencumber the funds? or defer the project, there would be $1.1 million that could be made available to facilitate this emergency repair. To pay for the additional water supply, we need approximately $2,090,000. So of that amount, $576,000 will come from water well pumping assessment. So that's the amount of water purchase we would have had to pay had C4 well continued operating normally. We would have paid that replenishment assessment to the water replenishment district. So those funds would be transferred from the pumping account to the import water account. Of the $1.1 million for the deferral of the swim and fitness center project, the balance of the $457,000 would be utilized to pay for the additional water cost. And then we have the annual arterial street rehabilitation project, which we still have $649,000. We had originally planned to start looking at 195th Street from Norwalk to Pioneer as the next eligible candidate for paving. But because of this, the need to purchase imported water, that project will likely be deferred until more future funds are available. And then our annual sidewalk curb and gutter rehabilitation project, we propose taking $408,000 from that effort. And so any requests that come in for sidewalk, curb, and gutter repairs will be inspected. They'll be looked at by staff. Only the highest priority items will be completed, and the rest of the items will be deferred until funds become available to handle them. And so with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for that report, Alvin, Papa. And thank you for working together. Thank you for working together, Alvin, Papa, Drew Snyder, and Chris Kubert, working together, over the weekend and all day today to get this agenda report completed before the meeting. Do we have any questions from the council? Councilmember Jennifer Hong.
Yes, it's unfortunate to hear about this information. I really appreciate the report and the hard working, unfortunately happened, and you guys all work very hard on this issue. I only have one question. You mentioned about in 2022, I know it's a different area, but if we hire those contractors to do all the maintenance, everything, do they have any kind of like warranty or, for the work or, that way we can know? Because this happened with it less than 3 years. That's what I'm concerned about. You know what I mean? Because this is 2022. Now it's happening in 2025, October. So, which is not even 3 years. I know it's different area, but from one area to the other area is all accumulating. So do we have any like warranty or guarantee from the outside contractor for this kind of work?
Yes, thank you for the question, Council Member. So typically for this type of work, the warranty period is about 1 year. General Pump does, tell us when they meet with us developing a solution, they tell us that, hey, this is an old well. This solution is not going to last forever. Just like they're telling us now with this repair, that this is going to get the well back up and running and operational, but we need to run it at a slower speed to prevent future damage. And that's really when you're working with infrastructure that's over 50 years old. No matter how good the contractor is, it's hard for them to guarantee that the thing is not going to break it. They installed a liner, they inspected their work, It was accepted by staff, and we did our best, and it ran well until just now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hong. Councilmember Sophia Say, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, I want to sincerely thank our staff for responding to so quickly and professionally to this unexpected emergency. Tonight, I want to stay focused on the subject, and the subject is water. And safe water is very essential to everyone, as we are aware of that, and we have to take immediate action. I want to thank you for brought this attention to me. This is an emergency. We all have family, had to think Christmas time too, but I do want to support this for tonight's proposal. But I do have some couple questions regarding this 5AC4 well status and proposed emergency repair. Okay, I want to acknowledge the urgency of ensure safe and reliable water infrastructure for our community, but also want to raise important funding consideration before us tonight. One of the couple things I do have issues about, at least one is about using the CPE, and we all know CPE hot water. You know, I heard people have issues about the water usage there, either hot and cold, and the pool is always cold when you go in, and this is a service to our community, and a lot of people do not know that we do such service with working with ABC program and trying to help our residents as healthy as we can. But the water, so I decided I joined the program, which is water exercising. The water is, when I took the shower there, it was, all of a sudden, it was so cold and then hot. I'm concerned about safety of community usage. Okay. So a couple issues I have today, and I want to, just a suggestion, I want to clarify with the staff. First of all, we all, one of the things I do some study and realize some of the revenue bond. Can staff advise whether a revenue bond is an option for this emergency repair? Briefly outline the main pro and cons. And would this impact utility rates of a long-term depth and capacity?
I can address that question. So a revenue bond is something that public agencies use for financing large infrastructure investments. It is something that the city can pursue. However, when a bond is issued, the bond has to be paid back with a dedicated revenue source, an ongoing regular revenue source. We currently don't have any added revenue sources that could pay for a revenue bond at this point. Perhaps with additional sources such as increased user fees or et cetera, that can be a potential source, but at this time we don't have that added source to pay for a bond. But it's something that we can explore for future infrastructure investments.
Okay. My second question is about investment and our reserve money that we have here in our city. Just wonder, do we have any city investment that we could access for this repair? And what penalty or financial impact would come with the early withdrawal? I mean, quickly, could I have those fund realistic readout for available for us to use?
Could you repeat the question about the
Sure.
investments?
This is about investment and reserve, the money that we have in our bank. And so do we have any, and do we have the penalty to pay for? And how quickly could those funds release out to be available for us to use?
Okay, so the city does maintain investments, and there is income that's received off interest. We do also have cash on hand on our general fund reserve. What's proposed this evening is expenditure of funds that ultimately are drawn down from our general fund reserve, essentially the city's savings account. What's proposed is to take money from the capital improvement program that the funding of those does come from our general fund reserve, and it would just move the money into for a different purpose, for the purchase of water and for the actual repair, with still drawing money ultimately from the general fund reserve. This would essentially add to the deficit position of the current fiscal year budget.
My third question is the project delay and communication. All this project, actually, we want to do it, and we plan to do it. Unfortunately, due to the emerging disaster, I call disaster, because with the medical background, it is very dangerous to us to drink unhealthy water. Could damage a lot to our body system. Finally, even cause some abortion or neural damage there. So I am afraid that the chemical release to our resident, which means we don't call safe water in Cerritos anymore. So if the project that we will mention today to postpone to fund this repair, how would staff communicate those delays to the community?
We can, depending on whatever action is taken tonight, we can issue communications to our residents through a form of press releases, social media posts, newsletter updates, et cetera, to share that information on whatever action is taken.
Because one side we worry about the safe water to drink, but also other side we worry about the community safety too, not just only the sheriff. Some other thing could also affect our health. So I'm asking this question to ensure we address this emergency while protecting public safety, physical responsibility, and community trust. And that's why I asked those questions. Thank you. That'll be I'll hold other question for later on. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. Councilmember Mark Polito, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to staff, Chris Hubert, Drew Snyder, Alvin Papa, Kristen Aguila, for initiating this report, and to City Manager for responding in this emergency crisis situation. On page 5 of the agenda report, at the bottom is a very important chart that compares the cost of repairing and the cost of doing nothing. And at the bottom, it has the opportunity cost if we do nothing. Mr. Papa, can you elaborate a little bit more on that so that people can actually understand that if we don't act in this crisis situation, that it's actually going to cost us even more because of the increased reliance upon importing water. So if you could elaborate for the public, appreciate that.
Yes, Council Member, absolutely. So as with any problem, we could choose to solve the problem and sometimes not solve the problem or just keep it status quo. And so in this situation, the cost of repairing the well is about $560,000. Then while we're doing the repair, we would spend about $2.2 million in import water cost. So since the well is not producing water now, we have to buy that import water, which we estimate at 1,315 acre feet. So that will be paid for at a cost of $1,698. So in both cases, we're going to be paying for water at the $1,698 price. So in both situations, the import water cost is $2.2 million until the estimated date of the scheduled repair. Once the well is repaired, then we're able to buy some of that cheaper groundwater. So approximately 2,192 acre feet, we can buy at that cheaper price at $454. And then we would still have to supplement due to the reduced capacity. So we would have to buy about 3,600 acre feet at the cost of $1,698. With regards to the total cost of repairing the well and buying the import water, that's the $6.3 million. Should we do nothing, we can continue to operate. We can just continue to buy water. And that comes at a cost of $8.4 million. And I'm sorry, $8.4 million. And this is until C4 well is replaced. So let me try to simplify this. So we have the cost of the emergency repair, the cost of buying the water until the repair is done, and the cost of buying water, which are the two last rows, until the C4 well project is put in place. That's the 18 months. The cost until that time happens is $6.3 million. That's when the project starts. We'll continue to run the well for a while, but eventually we have to take the wellhead off. If we do nothing, the cost of the water from now until the time that we start the well C4 project and pull the wellhead, or until that time is, that's $8.4 million. It's the milestone I'm trying to look for is when the C4 replacement project starts and the replacement well, or the repaired well is taken offline for the replacement project.
Thank you, Mr. Papa. I appreciate that. And the reason why I asked you to elaborate on that is because in 2014, when when I and the previous council back in 2014 voted to act with regard to our water rates, I don't recall opportunity costs being presented. And it was really just to address the subsidizing of water, not beginning to repair the infrastructure. And I think that's been a point of great discussion and debate with the current proposed increase to our water and sewer rates. So I appreciate to have this calculation in here. I don't know if staff probably didn't have time within the past 48 hours since you were working to prepare this, but if you look back to see if there was that type of analysis done and presented to the previous council, because in my recollection, I don't think that it was provided. Because if it would have, then it would have been pretty obvious that we needed to act instead of kick the can down the road. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying that had we had full and complete information about an analysis of what the potential opportunity costs, 11 years ago, then maybe good people would do good things. But if you don't have complete information, the complete analysis, then it is what it is, right? And again, this is not necessarily pointing fingers at council members or even staff. We just did the best that we could at that time. And at that time, we did increase the rates, but clearly not enough, and clearly not for investing it into upgrading our infrastructure. So here we are. And now we're in an emergency. It's not hypothetical anymore. This is actually happening. And thank you to staff doing their due diligence and to the council as we go into the holiday season, adding another meeting so that we can discuss this very, very important issue. So that opportunity cost, it makes it a no-brainer, at least in my book. But I'm wondering if going forward, if staff could go back and actually calculate the opportunity cost that was already incurred by that inaction, just so we could actually really appreciate how important it is to act now, not just tonight on an emergency basis, but then also with regard to what we have put before the public for the January 26th deadline on the Prop 218 process. Thank you for answering my question. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Polito. And so the city council has been informed that our screens are not working, so I'm not able to see the speakers, the list of people who have signed up to be speakers. I'm getting it on pieces of paper from the city clerk, so I need to please let you in the audience know that we are not using the normal system where you sign up to speak and I have it on my screen. I'm getting pieces of paper from the city clerk's office, so please, you should have been given your name to a person so that I will get it on the list here. We're also not able to see any of the paperwork on our screen like we normally do, correct? Assistant City Clerk, we don't have the staff report in that drop-down menu here on our screen, right? And what about voting? Are we going to have voting on our screen, or are we not going to have voting on our screen? Just so I can plan for it, I can prepare for it.
In the event that the voting screen isn't activated, we can certainly do
Well,
it.
so you don't know at this moment whether or not the screen is working?
Not at this moment.
Okay. So everybody, if you could please just be patient with us on this meeting, because we're finding out things together about the technology that is not working at this time. Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Polito. Mayor Pro Tem Linda Johnson, do you have any questions?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I know that we are talking about the critical failure of well C4. However, I think we also need to question how we got here as well. And I know we're not talking about a rate increase right now, but I do want to ask about the justification for the 2014 rate increase. And I believe Ryan had a memo prepared on December 19th, and if he could answer that, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Yes, the 2014 water rate increases were put in place to deal with the ongoing shortfalls in our general fund and really to help reduce our reliance on general fund support to the water and sewer infrastructure and funds. At the time when the staff report was presented, it was noted that the increases would help to significantly reduce general fund reliance while helping to cover the rising operating costs that we were experiencing at that time and to provide for some needed system maintenance. It's important to mention, though, that in the original staff report, it did not state that the rate increases would wholly eliminate the general fund subsidy or more fully address the water and sewer infrastructure maintenance that we have. So in reality, the increases that began in 2014 really didn't go as far as we'd hoped. By the time the full 7-year phase-in was completed in 2020, the additional revenue was really just enough to cover day-to-day operations, and the water fund was essentially at a break-even point. It did not provide us enough funding to support ongoing infrastructure and capital maintenance or to develop future reserves that could be used to support the system moving forward. Operating costs kept rising, and at the same time, water use here in California dropped sharply due to the drought that was plaguing us here, and that reduced revenue. But it didn't correlate to a reduction in operating costs. And so since 2021, our expenses have continued to increase, but the rates have stayed flat. So the system has again fallen back into a deficit position and remains largely dependent on general fund support. And so in short, the 2014 increases did not really provide us with a long-term solution to the city's water and sewer infrastructure deficits, but rather only provided short-term and essentially unsustained relief that addressed our operations costs only. And so we're again in a position where the city's having to subsidize the water and sewer operations, and those subsidies continue to come at the expense of the city being able to provide and continue to support other critical programs and services that we provide. So that's really kind of, in a nutshell, what the 2014 rate increases were intended to do and what they actually accomplished.
Thank you. And was it intended to do capital improvement projects?
It was initially contemplated that the rate increases would be able to provide some funding for our capital improvement program for the water infrastructure. But again, it wasn't intended to ever really fully address our infrastructure needs. It was really more to offset our operations cost in the water fund.
Thank you, Ryan. And my other question, this is more for our city attorney. If you could please explain the protections that Prop 218 provides our property owners in regards to fees paid for water and sewer.
Right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Under Prop 218, which basically amended the California Constitution with respect to property-related fees, the Constitution does state that any fees or charges that are property-related can only be used for those property-related charges for which they're assessed. So basically what that means is if you pay a water fee or a sewer fee, that money that's raised can only be used to pay for the water system or the sewer system. It cannot be used to provide any other general service. It can't be moved out of that fund to pay for anything other than water or other than sewer. And that's a state constitutional requirement.
So then it would be illegal for us to use that money to fund the CCPA, to pay for pensions.
Correct. Yeah. And I believe that specific citation is State California Constitution, Article 13D, Section 6, Paragraph B, Section 2.
Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Mayor, may I ask some more question?
Yes, Councilmember Hong.
Well, thank you. Because I thought this special meeting is just to talk about how we're gonna get the immediate fund to repair, to solve the problem right now. But since we're talking about water rate situation, I'd also like to raise some of my opinions. I think this is a whole procedure is kind of too quick and too fast and too quick, and also the rate is too high for the residents. I know, I've noticed, and I heard a lot, the neighborhood groups have already began organizing outreach efforts and collecting Proposition 218 protest funds, arguing that the city should explore alternative solution and funding strategies or cost-saving measure before implementing stiff utility rate hikes. So for this reason, I do agree with that because I know most of the residents do understand increase is necessary because we all know this is the whole facility and everything's aging. So I was just asking if it's possible that we can, because January 26th is coming, right? Coming up right now. So I'm sure if we can come out, the city and the resident can come out with some solutions and work for both of us, I think that would be the best benefits. And I think the city should provide, as our job is, or maybe the staff should come out with more alternatives so that we can say what's the best for us. Maybe like we were talking about revenue bond, because I know we still have to pay for it, but revenue bond maybe is something we can also consider, because when I don't like the bond with myself, but when running a business, if you keep on, your expenses keep on going higher, but your revenue is not enough, guess what? A business is going to go broke. So same thing with the city. We need the revenue. So how are we going to work it together? I'm sure the residents are willing and understand our city's situation, but I just want to find a better solution for this. Maybe we can ask for the revenue bond, or maybe we can also ask for the grant. The revenue bond could be possible, be done. I double check with some resources. Maybe we can get it done within 3 months. Grant, of course, there's no guarantee. We can only try. I understand that. And so, but I just want to have another alternative. So, because once the bond pass, this rate is going to be there, and the residents going to pay for that. And because we have a lot of seniors and fixed income residents in our city, so they're going to feel the impact with all the increasing of all the inflation, the food, the grocery, everything. So this is going to be very high cost for the resident. Picture with this money, it could be your car payment. So I just want to come out with a solution that for both of us, because we're here, we don't invent this problem. This council is inherited the problems, but we all have to face it. I don't want to put blame on previous or now, whatever. My conclusion is we all gonna have to face it, and let's work it out together, and let's find the best solution. This is my personal wish, of course, and of course we have to work all together and with the CD staff and brainstorm together. And I also, my last question is for this, the cost that we just come out with, the plan that we asked for. Say if in case it passed, how will we guarantee that the money is sufficient 5 years from now I don't want to, like 3, 4 years from now, we say, oh, I'm sorry. Well, we didn't estimate good enough, enough money. So we're again under the budget deficit. Where are we going to find the money? Because we can say, okay, previously we did a good study. Now we are coming out with, through professionals, suggestion and the studies. But like we say, we don't know how the damage going to be, and then how is the cost, how is the inflation, all the things together. I'm just saying, in case, like 5 years from now, I hope this fund is really enough to cover what we need. Thank you.
So, City Manager, can you answer Councilmember Hong's question? Is this 5-year payment plan? Is this 5-year water and sewer rate adjustment proposal? Is it really going to be enough, or do we have to consider actually a higher schedule of 5-year rate proposal?
As you may recall, you were presented with a water and rate sewer study that was prepared professionally by a consultant who looked at our infrastructure needs, used industry standards for estimating costs, and not only capital replacement, but also ongoing operational maintenance needs. And they use industry standards to then convert those estimates into proposed rates, water rates, sewer rates, et cetera. It is an estimate, and so it's our best guess as to what those costs will be. There were inflationary adjustments included to also help make those those estimates more accurate. But it is just that, it's an estimate. When we actually go out to bid on a project, that's when we know the true cost. But it is relatively reliable. A 5-year time horizon is more reliable than a longer term horizon for planning, because you can better predict, what's happening further closer to the present time. So the rates that are proposed will help to offset several of these major projects that are planned. In 5 years, there are more projects that have to be done, but then again, the rates will already be higher and can hopefully continue to fund what's needed beyond the 5-year period. And I believe Ms. Lee, City Attorney, did you want to add anything?
I will also add that because we're trying to input a reserve and a reserve policy in the enterprise funds for water and sewer services, that will additionally offset some of the additional capital improvements that will come out beyond the 5-year period. But just to remind everyone on the council, as well as members of the public, a Prop 218 hearing for rate increases with respect to water and sewer are routinely done. They're never static or stagnant. They're usually done every 7, 8, or every 5 years for every other agency. And that's because costs increase over the years with respect to inflation and labor costs and minimum wage, all of these issues, electricity, gas, natural resources, they are included in the cost to provide services. And unless the city or any public agency has a magic 8-ball for the future or a money producing machine, water rate increases will continue to come forward every few years because of these added costs that are beyond the 5-year projection period. That is normal.
You said that agencies normally do them at 5 to 7 years, and the last time the Cerritos City Council did a Prop 218 water and sewer rate adjustment proposal was 2014, so 11 years ago. Okay, Jennifer, Councilmember Hong, did you have any more additional questions you want to ask at this time?
No, thank you for the explanation. So my understanding is this rate, if we collect, knock on wood, if we don't really have to spend all of it, but we cannot reduce it. Once we pass, it's going to increase, just like what our formula suggests. because this has to be put aside just for water usage for the water. So we need to have a very the transparency of like what is the true cost of the maintenance and the repair and everything. So resident knows that, you know, where the money goes, where the money we pay for, and how much is being spent. If we don't really use up all that much water, we're just gonna keep it for the future year, or we're gonna, when we discussed it during the end of 5 years, that's the only time we have to talk about it. Maybe, am I right? So in between, there's nothing we can do.
In terms of the rate increase, the rate increase will increase as projected for the 5-year period.
Yes, but
And
if we
the
have extra,
And whatever funds are not utilized for specific operational costs or the capital improvements are going into the reserve that the city has created for the enterprise funds. And I believe that the projected revenue sources coming from any projected rate increase is allocated to the reserve of that fund. And I believe that each year it has been costed out and included as part of the December 11th staff report. And so I believe that's under table 317 of that December 11th staff report. So that should be available to all the readers who are interested in seeing how the money should be allocated, because the projected cost of each of the capital improvements is also included for each of the 5 years that that is projected for the rate increase.
Thank you. Also, have we done any market survey with all the business or commercial people? Like, I'm concerned about for the small business owner, because this would be a big increase for them. Am I worried about right now, small business some of them are really having a hard time, and they probably have a hard time of paying this kind of high water rate. And secondly, in the future, if I'm very, pro about having the new business coming into Cerritos, would this be another obstacle for people to consider to come in and moving into Cerritos? I like to take this into consideration as well. I know you probably say, yeah, our rate comparing to other cities still reasonable, but all the businessmen are really looking into all the aspects, besides their rental, and of course, this all is also part of their consideration. Thank you.
So I can address that last question. So we have not done a market survey of businesses. However, all commercial property owners and water customers did receive the literature that was mailed out. Excuse me, regarding the proposed rate adjustment. And as you had just mentioned, other cities where businesses can do business, water rates are already at market rates. We are proposing to catch up to the market rates for water.
Thank you.
Did any council members have any other questions? Oh, council member Say.
Thank you, Mayor. And also people who watch
Start
us.
over. Your mic wasn't on.
Okay, mic's not on. Okay, thank you. As elected official newly since March, May, I want to thank you all. If you vote me to be the seats, I want to let you know, when you choose me to take the seats in here, represent you, but I also have another responsibility to represent the budget. And not just that, I also have a responsibility to make sure everything's safe for the public, and I'll maintain transparency. I also maintain your public trust. But however, I am very lucky. When I was a school board, we have a chance to go to the water, provide a local agency, give education on the ocean and waste usage. And funny thing is, that related to my health background too. I realized, the currents in general, people's weight is way overweight than the past. What that means is the food that we use. And we use more oil food, right? And then think about oil uses, a lot of things cause waste. And then those waste we're using chemical, we talk detergent, wash it, that cause more chemical release. and we do, like Alan Papa just mentioned about chemical clean. And I went to see it, and they showed us the chemical cleaning, the total amount, the usage is more than in the past, double, triple, more than. So just for the little tiny thing, the chemical clean costs so much money already. Can you imagine the other costs, the maintenance, infrastructures? That's more than that. And I want the public to understand, today our focus really, what should we do? Our subject is, we're talking about tonight, emergency. And I want the people to understand we're not talking about the rate. I understand the rate very well. But also I was asking myself, don't forget, I'm also resident here. Each race cost me a fortune too. I asked the people to understand. People were saying that, 300, 400 at the end. And when I divided out by 2, because there's a different version out there talking about by month, which in English could be 2 verses right there. One is every other month, and the other one's 2 months, 2 times a month per month. So our usage is by month. Most residents, when I talk to some people, they say, oh, I did not know it's every other month. Yes, you pay every other month. When the highest one came out, it was like $365, I think $365 or $345, the rate. But when you divide by half, it's $150. To some people, it's all of a sudden cost. But when I looked back, I have so much advantage in the back. Those water rate has helped me a lot. And I remember back, and I think I have to, correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, I think that was like 2023. You had made a statement, I'm not finger-pointing anyone. What is a past is past, but I do want to remind people what's happening back in history. Has anybody fault? No, I don't blame it. I think it's looking forward, how are we going to repair? How are we going to cover the cost, the waste? How do we prevent? Further education is needed. The residents need to be educated. The chemical waste, we need to watch our usage in the future. Let's contaminate our ocean. I remember you mentioned on, I believe 2023, the council meeting, that you made a statement very clearly to one of our former council mayor, and you mentioned there was like 90% we cover subsidized for the water use of our resident. Am I right?
Yes, it's been some time since I served as the finance manager, but in my capacity as finance manager, we were subsidizing the sewer utility to the tune of about 90%.
Which means for $10, resident only pay $1, and then we pay $9.
That's correct.
So when this brought, I went back to look couple, I played back those council meetings. I believe on 2020, I don't remember exactly the day, I believe around May. And when our former mayor brought this up, and secondly by one other council member, it wasn't you, I want to know, Frank, you were there. The first person made a motion to move, and the other person second to support. And unfortunately, and there are people at that time, denial, say, I never say anything. But it's not the most important part is, what is our responsibility here? What can we do? How can we make better things? And I look back, I would discuss with my son, it's just as a sample, I discuss with my son, because I have about almost 80 people living in Cerritos right now, my relatives or the in-law here. When I mentioned to them about this race, and my son said that, Mommy, if I go to a restaurant right now, it probably costs me just one time $150 one visit. And most of us here at least go 4 times. But I want to encourage the resident here thinking over, work with us, not to divide us. See what we can do. And we're looking forward tonight, our job really focus on what can we do to help going through this crisis here, the budget we have here, the project we have here. And we're looking at public safety. We are looking, public safety is water safety, but again, public safety such as swimming pool, hot water usage, and such as the sidewalk, they all come together. And I want all of us really in here tonight, let's work together. It is hard, and we need to help. Thank you, Mayor.
Do any of my council colleagues have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Yeah, I have a question. Where this is a discussion, right? Amongst colleagues, amongst staff. This is what we're doing. So I just had a question to Councilmember Hong. You bring up that we know we have to think of ways, resources where to cut. I just wanted to know if you've utilized the resource of staff and our city manager to ask those questions, because that's what we've been doing since October. and even before that. I talk to Robert every day. I sit with him, I talk with him, we're on the phone, I meet with him. I don't know. I mean, do you have a solution? Because you're asking them to come up with a solution, and they've given us solutions or ways to cut. There's a budget. Here's the budget. There's nothing left in here to cut. So I just want to know if you've been
Could the
able
public
to.
wait for their opportunity to speak at public comment, please, instead of... Mr. Stallings, come on. You'll have public comment. I will give you public comment, please. We're going to get to that point.
Our staff works hard. That's all I have to say. Yeah, they live here. City manager lives in Cerritos. We have employees in the audience live in Cerritos. Commissioners that live here in the city of Cerritos. Council members live in the Cerritos. We're all going to be impacted. And if you had a solution, bring it up to the city manager and discuss it with him.
Yes, thank you. I do agree what you say. Don't forget, I'm also the resident of Cerritos
I just
as
said
well.
all of us
Yeah,
were.
all of us are.
Yeah.
My suggestion is to have a revenue bond, and also we have to review our budget and we have to cut back. We all have to tighten our
But
belts.
he just explained why we're not doing a revenue bond. Councilmember Say brought it up.
She asked that question before
She
you.
already asked it.
I know, but I still think we should consider about a bond.
How are we going to pay for it?
We can still pay it from water rate, but we don't have to pay that much. It would be different rate.
Okay, city attorney, you wanted to say something?
Like the city manager had previously said, the revenue bonds are predicated on a revenue source. If there are no revenue sources, then the revenue bonds cannot be issued. I just issued a bond last year for another water agency client, and it had to do with rate increases. And so any revenue bond, underwriter counsel, bond counsel will rely on a water and sewer rate study, as just like the one that was prepared for this city earlier this year. And the water rate study that was prepared by, I believe it was Economic Water Resources, they are one of the preeminent people in the field that specifically does water and sewer rate studies throughout California. And so any revenue bond would be predicated on a rate study such as the one that was prepared, and they would issue a bond based on the future revenue sources of the ratepayers. And to the extent you want to fund capital improvement projects and do everything that we need to do for the aging infrastructure that we have, it would probably come out exactly like the water rate study had done. We can redo a water rate study, but it would more likely than not, and probably 100%, come out just like the one that has been produced so far. And so we can certainly look into a revenue bond, but I don't believe it will likely decrease the rate increase that the ratepayer will pay.
What I'll add to that also is that a revenue bond comes with it paying interest over time. It's like getting a mortgage, right? So whereas what's currently proposed is building up reserves that can pay cash for infrastructure improvements. Either way would require a rate increase, but the revenue bond would come with the added cost of interest paid over time.
Yeah, the difference is when you get your money, now versus a little bit later.
Me. Frank,
Coun-
can I have one more question?
Councilmember Say, do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
This is go to our attorney here. I just want to ask you about, because I remember the last time we mentioned about what's going to happen in 2030, right? We saw the chart. It turns more red. I remember I did discuss with some of the district attorney too about the city attorney about what's going to happen 5 years later. You know, we not increase this time, it's still going to go high. Because people ask me, what's going to happen after 5 years? I say, I'm not guaranteeing you. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Can you elaborate a little bit about, from your personal experience, in 2025, we don't increase that much. After that, 2030, we're still going to go. What direction is going to be?
Right. So your question is basically if we don't increase the rates now, or if we increase the rates at a rate that is lower than what is being proposed,
Yes.
what happens in 5 years? Is that
Yes.
correct? I will let my financial experts weigh in on this a little bit more, but based on my understanding for the proposed increase, if it doesn't increase at the rate that is being proposed, the general fund will have to continue to subsidize the water and sewer fund, and the projects will not get built, one or more of them. And of course, they will continue to age, and we will get more failures, just like the C4 well failure that just occurred. So the costs will not decrease, they will escalate. Unless deflation occurs, which has not occurred in recent memory, you will continue to experience cost increases in the future. So you either pay it now or you pay for it later. I think to decrease the rate now, what you will face in 5 years is a cost escalator where you will have to increase the rates later on. It's either kicking the can down the line or just kicking it, not so far, but still kicking it.
Yeah,
I'd like to defer to Mr. Papa to elaborate on maybe a more a specific impact in terms of the projects.
Thank you.
Yeah, so with regards to, if we raise rates now, what's going to happen in 5 years is the rates are here. We're going to get them where they need to be. So in 5 years, the hope is we would have built the C4 well. We have a valve replacement program in place, but the work is not done. The projects that were proposed were the absolute most critical projects. There's many other recommended projects that we need to do. We still have to build the C5 well, followed by the C1 well, followed by the C2 well. So there are 3 more wells to build. That's at least another decade. Then we have 150 miles worth of pipe that still need to be replaced. That work is approximately $3 million per year for at least another 50 years. The work will not stop. The work will not end. Everything will continue to age. I would say at the end of 5 years, we would have met our reserve level. We would have ended our reliance on general fund. And then my hope is that we would be doing a rate study again to evaluate everything. And we wouldn't have a drastic increase that you see now, because then we're at the appropriate level where we need to be. The rates would be set appropriately. So then we would likely see modest increases, similar to maybe 2 or 3% per year. And my suggestion is that if we get to that point, we conduct a rate study and we do those modest rate increases and do that in perpetuity. Because otherwise people think we're okay, let's skip it. You skip it for a year or two, it ends up being 5 years, 10 years, and you're back in the same boat wondering what happened.
It seems like we need a lot of education on the water usage there. But I also want to ask one more question. They'll probably fall back to you. Electric bill. Who pays the electric bill so far? We subsidize them.
The city does not, for residential customers, the city does not subsidize or get involved in the electrical service. That's wholly paid by the ratepayers, by the residents and users.
Yeah, I see a lot of people have solar. I have solar system in my house, So, electricity wise, the resident pay for, and water, since from the last decade, we are subsidized 90%. Am I right? The residents, include the sewer. Just confirm that.
Yeah, that 90% figure, that 90% subsidy you were referencing applied to the sewer utility.
So
the water utility subsidy isn't quite as high, but the 90% figure you referenced is for the sewer utility.
I don't know how we're going to catch up. Thank you.
I had one question. Councilmember Hong, you mentioned that you had a resource that informed you about revenue bonds. Who is the resource, or what is the resource, please?
I consult, actually, I was fortunate to be approached by our previous finance manager in our city who has retired, Becky Linga, and I believe she make it a very clear proposal, and to me, it seems to make sense because as a business, we all know when we need more funding, we have to get a credit line. We have to know how to use the other resource to get money. Understand we have to always pay the interest. But if our city are in still good standing, we can get a better like AAA rate or whatever. So we only use the money when we need it. And when we need more, we are not going to be short. So it's worthwhile to study that. I'm saying maybe like our attorneys say, the result would be the same. But I'm just saying that we should have do this kind of study and give the resident an understanding that we are also trying the other way. And as far as the budgeting, cutting everything, I understand because we have all the good services, everything in our city. If we get down to the critical point, I'm more than willing, like our council colleague, our Mayor Pro Tem was talking about, we have all the budget already set down. But next year, we really have to look at really hard on each item and every service. Do we really need it? Come on, resident, we have to really look into it. Where can we cut? It's not affecting our infrastructure, our public safety. Those are our essential items. We really need to pay attention to it. We have to do what we have to do to get through and make the city back on the track. And everybody's enjoyed it. When the time comes, the city have more money, of course, we will give more service to everybody. But meanwhile, we need everybody's help, and we need to collaborate with each other. And that's what I'm trying to tell everybody. I understand study might be not the perfect way, but I always say that if you make a proposal, I would like to have alternative. I don't like to just have one proposal and either you pass it or you don't pass it. That's just my personal suggestion. Thank you.
City Manager, can you repeat again what is your advice to the City Council about going forward with the revenue bond?
A revenue bond can be looked at, but we understand anecdotally that it's going to require a source of revenue to pay off that bond. And at this point, there are no extra revenues available. What could be done is that—
Hold on, please. Can you please stop talking out loud? You will have time at public comment to talk about everything you want to do for 5 minutes, but it's very rude of you to talk out loud and interrupt other speakers and make it so the people around you can't hear what's being said. I've heard you multiple times make comments out loud. You're going to have your time to speak at public comment. You're going to have 5 minutes. You can say what you want and explain everything of your public comment, but you're interrupting other speakers. It's very rude. And the people around you are being interrupted by what you're saying. They might not be saying it, but if I can hear you all the way over here, I'm sure they could hear you louder than I can. Okay, please continue.
So a revenue bond would need some source of revenue to pay off, make those bond payments over the term, typically 30 years. And there are currently no available additional revenue sources that could be used for a bond. What could be done is increased revenues from a rate adjustment could be used to pay off a bond if we want to get cash on hand quickly to pay for an immediate infrastructure project. Otherwise, what has been laid out is accumulating reserves to then, initially with still some general fund support, that will decrease over time, paying for these projects and simultaneously building up a reserve fund within our enterprise fund. I did also have the opportunity to speak to the resident that was referenced.
I was going to ask you that. Just right now, I want to know what's your advice to this City Council about a revenue bond.
If we can look at it, but it would still come with a need to increase water rates to pay off the bond.
Okay. Last week, did you sit down and have a meeting with Becky Lingad.
Yes, Ms. Lingad reached out to me, a former colleague working here at the City of Cerritos, and wanted to offer some suggestions. So I did meet with her along with other members of our staff, received her advice and suggestions, and we discussed the same issue, right? That the bond repayment needs to come from somewhere. But it's something we can look at, especially if rates are low and we could take advantage of low interest to get quick cash on hand. But then the revenue still needs to be there to pay it.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to say something, City Attorney?
I do. And for revenue bonds that may be contemplated, they would be stretched out over a certain period of time, typically longer than 5 years. And so we would be back here for any revenue bond that you're considering, you would be back here for another rate increase after 5 years. Like I said before, we issued a bond for another water agency last year in December of 2024, and it was, I believe, a 30-year bond, and there was another one that was 20-year bond. The rate increase was only satisfying 5 years. They are guaranteed to come back at the end of that 5 years so that they can increase the rates further in order to pay for the rest of the bonds. And so it can't be that you get your money and not have to pay it through some other way. The collateral for any revenue bond would be the rate that the ratepayers pay, or some other infrastructure, which the city doesn't have a large infrastructure facility type of thing to collateralize.
Thank you, City Attorney. Thank you for your attendance at tonight's meeting. State law and our local rules do not support the use of profanity, hateful speech, or activity that disrupts the conduct of this city business meeting. If necessary, I will issue an initial warning and call for a recess to restore order. After that, the chamber may be cleared if disruption continues. The following comments pertain to all public comment periods on tonight's agenda. I will open public comments at the appropriate time on the agenda. Please be prepared to approach the podium and begin your comments at the time you are called. Public comments should be directed to the City Council and made only from the podium during your turn. Please respect each speaker and refrain from any disruptive behavior or speech during their comment time. Public comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Prior to tonight's meeting, can somebody please address their phone? Okay, thank you. Prior to tonight's meeting, the City Council received full text, unredacted copies of one written comment. Is that right, Assistant City Clerk?
Yes, that's correct.
Of one written comment submitted by the deadline for item 5A. Requests for copies of written comments can be made to the office of the City Clerk during regular business hours. I will now open for item 5A, public comments. Raymond Kim.
City Council, thank you for this opportunity to address, this very important matter. I think my name is Raymond Kim. I have a PhD in finance. I'm a professor. I teach finance. I teach about general obligation bonds to my students. But anyways, I guess I want to talk about replacement reserves first of all. When I worked at a commercial real estate fund, we had replacement reserves, and this was taken off the revenue. We set aside about 5% of rent for things like water infrastructure, stucco repair, plumbing, all these kinds of things that maybe they don't teach in law school. But basically when you're running a business, you have to set aside off the top, off the revenue, replacement reserves. Now, I guess I'm saying this as a shareholder in Cerritos. And the way, there's all sorts of, in finance, you have to talk about conflicts of interest, all these unpleasant things that unfortunately, I would like to talk about. I hope I don't offend anybody. That's not my purpose. But I'm a shareholder of Cerritos. I'm a resident. Now, what happens when we reduce agency conflicts is we have shareholders, we have executives that run the company, which is the city council. You guys run the city. Everything is you guys are responsible for because you're the executives. And the city staff, every single one of them, including the city manager, is your employees. And they do what you tell them to do. And this is the best way to reduce agency conflicts. And another thing is, what I noticed is there's many different funds. There's like way too many. I think city council should get a report of every single fund, every single balance that there is, all the transfers that are happening. This shouldn't be just something that the city manager does. Maybe Councilwoman Jennifer Hong could take a look because it seems like she has the most background in business. So yeah, commingling funds, transferring funds, this is very common. I think everybody here, if you had high medical bills, you made a delayed a car payment or delayed a purchase of a new car. A lot of funds are commingled. Spending is commingled. And when you follow finance, it tells you what the priorities are. And so I think City Council should immediately be getting reports weekly of every single fund, hidden or not, and all the transfers that are taking place, so they can get a true idea of the financial state of Cerritos. Okay, another thing is I want to address misinformation. One is that rising pension costs do not reduce government services. Now, the thing is, that actually goes against research by Dr. Sarah Anzia of Berkeley. She's an associate professor in the Goldman School of Public Policy. Her paper is Pension in the Trenches, How Pension Costs Are Affecting U.S. Local Government. Basically, the more pension costs we have, the less infrastructure spending we do. And I guess, in case you guys want, I could ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT, can you tell me about Dr. Sarah Anzia's paper on pension in the trenches? What is the relationship between rising pension costs and infrastructure spending?
Dr. Sarah Anz's paper basically looks at how rising pension costs are impacting local governments in the U.S. She found that instead of raising more revenue, many local governments are actually cutting their workforce. That means other types of spending can get squeezed out, which can include infrastructure maintenance. In places like California, for example, rising pension costs have been linked to deferred upkeep on infrastructure. So in short, the growing pension obligations are making it harder to keep up with things like infrastructure spending.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that is the state of academic peer-reviewed research, not just hearsay or stories or feelings. That's academic peer-reviewed research. And it makes sense, right? If we have rising medical expenses, we may delay the purchase of a new car. I think we all go through it. And, one thing to actually address this is what cities like Manhattan Beach, Garden Grove, Southgate, and Fresno have done, which is set up a pension reserve fund. Now, pension reserve funds, what would happen is, I think this year alone, we had $53 million in personnel expenses, $25 million of a pension bailout. CalPERS, I'm not really sure. It says 15 million, 13 million, 2 million, 10 million.
Mr. Kim, you've gone over your 5 minutes. Can you please finish your
Okay, sure,
point?
sure. Yeah, so what a pension reserve fund would do is it would be funded by future COLA increases. So instead of COLA increases, it would go to the pension reserve fund. And that would be the buffer that we have to make sure that employees could continue to have their pension and that it would be stable, and that also at the same time we could have money freed up in the general fund to address things like water infrastructure. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Rogan Gerard.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Rogan Gerard. I am a city employee here, and myself and Ben, we both represent the hardworking employees of the city. We are rank and file, lower end employees that work with these systems. We don't get involved in the big picture stuff about finances and where money comes and goes from. But we just wanted to come because we have spoken to the actual employees that work in the water department that service this equipment. We've had discussions about this for about 25 years, about infrastructure in the water department and throughout the city that has not been able to get addressed. Cutbacks that we've had to make, tightening our belt. The city staff has stepped up in many ways to try to keep things operational with a lack of funding. But we wanted to just give you guys a little perspective since you're hearing primarily from superintendents, directors, what we see as well from our end looking up. We see a lot of challenges. We see a lot of deferred maintenance. We see lack of funding. We currently right now are short 3 critical staff members in the water department. We've been short staff members in that department for a long time because of lack of funding, which having those staff members, they can do more maintenance. They can, right now we're stretched thin. Our workforce is competently making sure that our residents' water is safe. But with less staff, that means they're working harder. So I just wanted to represent to you that we see a lot of challenges. If possible, I'm going to wrap up here. If Ben could be called next, because it might dovetail into what I'm talking about. He has spoken to the water department team, rank and file members, and has a little bit of information just to pass on to you from our perspective about the challenges in the system and the importance on funding this. I will add, I agree with the City Council has to make tough decisions here, but the City Council should know the boiler at the swim center is original. It is very old. It is very worn out. It has failed multiple times, which then leads to having to close the pool. So I understand about tightening belts. That is your guys' prerogative in city management to help with that. But all these come with challenges. The more we tighten our belt, the more we find more things that fail. We've been frustrated on our end. We want to fix things. We want to keep everything operational. We want to provide the best services to our residents. And we will continue to do that, whatever decisions this council make. But it gets harder and harder when we don't have enough staff and there isn't enough funding to fix things. That's from our perspective. We also understand we need to keep a balanced budget, we need to have a reserve, and we need to keep the city prosperous for our residents. But with that being said, I think it'd be best for Ben to speak a little bit more about what the water department team sees from the rank and file perspective. He has a kind of a prepared statement that might be helpful for you to consider. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard. Ben Lauren.
Good evening, Mayor, Council Member, and City staff. My name is Ben Lauren, and I serve as Vice President of AFSCME Local 619, representing the dedicated employees who maintain and operate the essential services that keep the City of Cerritos running every day. We're here tonight to express our strong support for the critical water and sewer infrastructure repairs and maintenance. These systems are the backbone of our community, providing clean water, safe sanitation, and protecting public health. Unfortunately, much of this infrastructure is aging, and years of deferred maintenance and insufficient funding have made it increasingly difficult to keep these systems operating reliably. Our members see these challenges firsthand every day. They inspect, service, and operate this system under increasingly difficult conditions. The recent failure of another well underscored the seriousness of the situation. And when a well goes offline, the city is forced to purchase water. It not only affects reliability, but also worsens the financial challenges facing the Water Enterprise Fund. While we understand the city is working to fill vacant positions, these jobs are highly competitive, and staffing shortages add strain to an already complex system. We want to be clear, AFSCME 619 supports the council's efforts to address these structural financial shortcomings to invest in repairs, and we're not here to debate policy choices. We're here to affirm that these repairs are necessary and urgent. The most recent well failure was concerning but not unexpected. If it hadn't been that well, it would have been another component of the system, and without sufficient ongoing investment, these failures will continue to occur. Our members care deeply about this city. They come to work every day committed to making Cerritos one of the best cities around. That commitment has not changed, but the reality is that keeping up with repairs and maintenance has become increasingly difficult when funding has not kept pace with the condition of the system. These concerns are not just coming from management or reports, they're coming directly from the rank and file employees who physically inspect and work on this equipment each and every day. So we commend the council for recognizing the urgency of this issue and taking steps to prioritize these improvements. AFSCME 619 stands ready to work collaboratively with management and the city to ensure these projects are completed efficiently, safely, and with the highest standards of service. Thank you for your leadership and commitment to protecting our community's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lauren. Steve Stallings. Hello, Mr. Stallings.
Good evening. You guys know me. Steve Stallings, been a resident of Cerritos for 48 years, and I've addressed this body before, although not necessarily these members. I'm frustrated. I'd like this body to deal only with facts going forward. I'm tired of misrepresentation and misinformation or sensationalizing information to try to make a point. That's not why we're here. A couple of you have essentially violated Cerritos' charter by suggesting that we should look at other cities' water rates. We can't. Rates and fees in Cerritos must be based on Cerritos costs, period. No other information. The reason people in homes or buy homes in Cerritos, as all of you know, is the ABC School District, the excellence that they provide. It has nothing to do with CCPA, so I don't want to hear any more about that either. If anything, the funding for CCPA might have to go to water infrastructure, which is much more important, although that's not a topic I want to cover today. But this council, most of you came from the school board, so you know that to be a fact. And the previous council were all realtors. They knew that for a fact. It's the schools that make Cerritos attractive. Mr. Paluto and Mrs. C., I want you to quit sensationalizing the poisons in the water from well 5, which has been taken offline for a reason. There's no pump there. The well has been capped. It has heavy metals in it. If we can find any other water resources, we're not going to open that well. That's crazy. So that's not an issue. Safe water is not a problem at this point. Sufficient water supply at a good cost is the issue, and we should stick to that. From now on, I want to base all these sessions on actual costs, actual revenues, and the facts only, because otherwise you're wasting our time as residents. That's not to say that the residents don't want clean water, nor do we want effective sewage disposal. We just want to understand what the real costs are, what the plan is, and what you're going to do about it. Mayor, you suggested that in 2013, 2014, the council based the previous increases on Prop 218. It's a damn good thing they didn't, because if so, the city would be in violation of state law for the last 11 years. They didn't base those on 218, so the city absorbed that money, which is still coming in at $3.2 million a year, based on the 10% year-over-year rate increases we paid then, which came up to 84% total over 7 years. And that $3.2 million is still coming in, and it's still subsidizing the water. So the fact that none of it was spent on infrastructure is a failing of this body. And now we're going to have to pay the consequences because nothing was done. Maintenance was deferred or completely ignored. And as the gentleman from the union and the city employees mentioned, deferred maintenance is a good way to go into bankruptcy. That's just bad planning all the way around. It's not in your best interest. And everything in this meeting's agenda was about emergency repairs. The word emergency was used 11 times in the body of the report. Emergency repairs cost 4 to 5 times as much as routine repairs because preventive maintenance programs are not being funded. So as a result, this city is wasting the money you are collecting from us and not putting into a plan programs like this that are routinely used to maintain the quality and sufficient volume of our water. That's not acceptable going forward. Now, I know Prop 218 forces you to spend the money the right way, but the way you're going about this is also bad faith. You're sneaking this in to the residents with a document that was in a plain envelope, 6 pages long, and the dispute page wasn't until page 5, and it was only in one language. And even though I'm Caucasian, that's not the minority language in Cerritos anymore. There are many Asian languages and many others that it should have been in. So now the residents, myself included, are having to go door to door to make sure our neighbors sign that document. And by January 26th, we hope to be able to kill this process because you are doing it in bad faith. Had you come forward with us to us directly with a plan and costs and suggested reasonable water rates, we wouldn't be up here arguing with you now. But this is not the way to conduct city business. We recognize that if this was done in a ballot, it would only take a majority to kill it. And in the city of Cerritos, elections only draw 20-25% of the electorate, and not every home in Cerritos is a registered voter, so you'd only get 10 or 15% of the people to deal with it. You're forcing us to get 50% of the residents of Cerritos to sign a petition against something in about 2 months' time in order to block this. And we're going to do that. We are going to block it, and you'll have to start over and come up with a new way to fund necessary projects that these guys have outlined. This is not optional. It has to be done, but you're going about it the wrong way. In closing, between 2015 and 2020-21, you raised about $32 million. I'd like to know where that money was spent because by your own admission, none of it was spent on water or waste infrastructure, not a dime. So as a result, where did that money go? How do I get that information and how do you present it to the people so we know you're being responsible with our money now? At this point, you want a 400% increase in rates over 5 years. 392%, I'm rounding. That gives you $10 million a year to work with, but your own staff hasn't identified that much in projects.
Can you finish your point, please?
Yes, I can. To date, they've identified $3.3 million in an ongoing project to replace old steel wells over 17 miles. They've got another project to replace 150 miles of pipe. They have pump projects at about $500,000–600,000 apiece. Those projects don't equal the $10 million a year you're going to get from us with these rates. It's excessive. It's being done in a bad faith way, and it doesn't represent the people of Cerritos' objectives or goals. We want fair representation, not extortion.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stallings. Okay. Councilmember Polito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to clarify that at the last council meeting, the comments I made were about the sewage spill, not about poisons in the C5 well.
May I respond? You also talked about the arsenic.
Respond at the microphone.
You also spoke about the arsenic, the manganese, and the TFAT, whatever, that was in the water in the well. That well, C5, will never be reopened unless it's a last resort because of those chemical contaminants or heavy metal contaminants. We have 4 other wells, 2 of them are operational, 1 of them needs maintenance right now, and they all need maintenance over time, but sensationalizing it isn't going to help. Okay, we can read through the BS.
Thank you, Mr. Stallings. Thank you. Sam Desai.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and residents. My name is Sam Desai. I am a resident of Cerritos. What residents are witnessing tonight is bad faith governance. And truly, it's a shame on this council. This is not transparency, this is not accountability, and this is not how a city business should be conducted. Let's start with the process, because process does matter. This agenda report for this special meeting was released minutes after the meeting began. Mayor, in 10 minutes, you expected residents to digest this complex infrastructure and financial decision almost instantly, while the council keeps on moving forward. This is not meaningful public input. This is a process designed to outrun the public. And if we are talking about the process, Mayor Pro Tem Linda Johnson elevated a local tabloid-style publication that openly insults residents for this official proceeding. Residents used to feel get rushed, limited context, while a divisive outlet gets credibility by you. That is selective validation, and it does destroy trust. And right now, council, residents have lost trust in you. You know, when it comes to substance of C4 well and emergency, the council members were just all over the place. Sorry, Sophia, I'd say, I had no idea what the heck you were talking about. And you kept on going at it. What was that? You know, this is not a simple mechanical issue. It's a textbook example of leadership failure. And instead of ownership, the conversation keeps on drifting all over, including blaming previous councils. This council owns the problem, and what makes this is what happens next. So what happens next? Is this meeting about emergency repairs? Or is this about selling Prop 218? And along the same line, with due respect, we noticed that city attorney was acting like our city treasurer. Legal advice is her lane. Financial forecasting is not. Making judgments on certain areas is not. Being a treasurer of city is not your lane. She should have stayed in her own lane. It is important also to have more conversation. There's this deadline coming, and you have hundreds, and I'm listening to this, hundreds of volunteers door knocking. Why? Because there's a rush of this January deadline, and this council needed that 7,575 protest letters. We heard about bond today, and we heard about electric bill today. And between all of this, we keep on hearing that what our employees are pointing out, it's just unfathomable for you to shove 300 100% increase in water rates over the next 5 years.
Could you
It
please
is
finish your point?
Mayor, I
5
was
minutes
not
are up.
even done. 5 minutes was not done. You have to stop interrupting and disrespecting residents. And no, I'm not being racial. So Linda Johnson, don't think I'm being racial while I'm chastising our mayor not to interrupt before the 5 minutes are up. Show some respect to the residents, Mayor. So I will be done after 5 minutes was 0, but you interrupted me. Next time when I'm here, don't do that, please.
Your time is up.
I know it was up, but when you interrupted me, it was not. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Thank you very much.
It's in
sir.
English.
Thank you very much,
Do
sir.
not interrupt anyone who comes after me until they are done.
Thank you very
Have
much,
some
sir.
decency to just sit back and listen to the damn feedback.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Curtis Forsyth? Okay, thank you. I'll thank you, Curtis. Charles Suter, Chuck Suter.
This has been an interesting meeting. What I've learned so far is that Cerritos has a money problem. So I'm not going to talk about anything more than this little notice that was sent out, purposes of transparency. I learned that the total expenses for 25-26 is 131 million, and general revenue or funds coming in is 105 million. And the question I had was, where is the shortfall? How's that going to be paid for? There's a $30 million budget deficit. I went to the website, and I see that the general fund is shrinking because there's a $8.1 million deficit. I'm not quite sure what the deficit is, but I know there's a deficit. So I think the major problem here that can solve a lot of problems if we can find new sources of revenue and reduce some of our costs. So I've got 4 ideas. Idea number 1, there was a proposal sometime in the recent past to increase sales tax 1%. That measure failed. Maybe it been reached too far, but I would propose, what about a 0.25% increase in our sales tax? We're now at 9.75%, quarter, take it up to 10, nice round number. That number, that small increase would generate another $11 million a year. I think that should be one of the items that should be considered. I also was going to recommend a reduction in staff, but listening to some of the employees here saying that they are staff impacted, maybe that's not such a good idea, but there might be other ways to use attrition to move down the headcount in departments that maybe aren't quite that critical. We know that there's probably a good 5% turnover every year. Maybe a couple of those percentages go down from 500 employees down to maybe 450. That'll save $1 million a year. Also, we have this jewel of Cerritos, I call the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts. What would happen if it was renamed Bill Gates Performing Arts Center located in Cerritos? In other words, suppose we sold the Performing Arts Center. Building's still going to be there. Still the crown jewel of Cerritos. We just don't own it. We don't operate it. It operates at a deficit of between $5 and $6 million a year. There's another cost savings. And then lastly, as a city resident for 56 years, I want clean water. I'm willing to pay my share. I'm prepared to pay a subsidy if that's required. But if we do these other cost measures that reduce costs that we're currently undergoing, and if we get additional revenue, then maybe the subsidy won't be quite as large and there will be less of a taxpayer revolt that you have to deal with. So my main recommendation is we have a problem. Let's fix it now rather than waiting 3 years before the general fund is completely exhausted. We have no recourse. Let's take these measures now. No one's going to like them, but we need to act now rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suter. Curtis Forsyth.
All right, so again, I'm kind of at a loss for words because doing some more research into the arsenic and the poisoning of the wells and things like that, I have discovered that a lot of these issues stemmed from the California fires and the ash in the air and going into the ground along with the pesticides. And if this is the issue and it's going into the ground well, we're investing into a system that's a circular and it does nothing in the end. The ground well will be poisoned again the next time there's a fire and Gavin Newsom sits on his ass. I apologize for my language. And Mayor Bass is busy off in another country dancing around. Gavin Newsom knows my name. How you doing, buddy? Anyways, I've sat here and I tried to interview you, and you denied me, and you didn't do anything until you were made known that it was a psychological operation and you were being recorded. I watched you mock that man speak to you. If this is what our city council is like, it needs better representation. And if that needs to be me, a younger generation that knows how to think clearly, I've run multiple businesses and I've done it with no overhang and I have zero debt to my name. You are a disrespect to this entire city. You want to play the race card? I've seen the race card. I know you worked for Villanueva. I know you're a paralegal. I know your history. I know all about you. And I have an interview coming up, and I hope that you're prepared to answer the questions because you've lied to to the people, and I can prove it. The documents that I've gone and given to you, where are they? Are they on the record? See? So this is the point I'm trying to make, folks. I've tried to meet with her, and there's a camera on my chest right now recording her face so that the public can see what you're doing. I'm going to break you down, and I'm going to expose you. You lied, you played a game, and you manipulated me, and you think that you have power. I pay your bills. I pay your paycheck, and you owe me respect just like you do every one of these citizens. And you denied it. And I had to play a psychological operation just to get you to answer a question from your own residents. You're a disgrace. And I don't mean to be insulting to you. I wanted to do this in a cordial way and show you that there are other options that you could go. I know you may not like this idea, but if you want a massive form of income that's basically a bottomless pit, open up a marijuana shop. Take every dollar from that marijuana shop and put it towards infrastructure, teaching drug problems to the younger generation. You're taking money and you're burning it. And again, in 5 years, when this issue happens, and I have this recording with my news team, and I destroy you again, I want you to know, I warned you that this was going to happen again, and your career is over.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Forsyth. Dan Nino. Kyle Brown. He left. Carla Gilheis.
Good evening. I'm Carla Gilheis, and I wanted to speak to a couple of points before I got to the issue for tonight. Councilmember Say, I think the question you want to ask is what is the subsidies that the city is providing to the businesses from the Magnolia Power Plant? Find that out, follow that thread, because the city is subsidizing that, the Magnolia Power Plant. Mayor, you talked about the 218 and the 2014 timeframe, and you said it's been 11 years. I think the math is it started then and it goes 7 years, which means 2021. So it's really been 4 years since we had our last increase, not 11 years. Both Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Polito, you guys spoke about you don't think that the last increase had anything that supported infrastructure, capital improvements. Well, I would ask you to go back and look at the agenda report from that time and also look at the notice of public hearing because, excuse me, I'm looking at it right now and it says these increases would be levied to mitigate shortfalls in the water and sewer funds and provide for capital improvements that will be necessary to preserve the integrity and viability of both systems. So it clearly stated that those increases were going to be going to that. And then there was another page in the agenda report that actually said anticipated capital improvements of the Cerritos water system. And there was 7 items listed. So I think it's very disingenuous to say that the last increase never addressed capital improvements. It did, and that's what was sold to the citizens and the residents of Cerritos. I think now, Ms. Johnson, I'm really disappointed in how you spoke to your fellow council member tonight. It was disrespectful. It was unprofessional, and it bordered on bullying. When someone spoke out that went against what you thought and how you felt, you immediately tried to demean and belittle her opinion. I expect more from you. That's not why I voted for you. Please do better. Now, I'm also a little bit concerned that as others have mentioned, that we've put out this, I would call it a rag piece by the LCCN. And the timing is really interesting to me. So let's talk about that for a second. On 12/16, NBC4 ran a story about how everybody's upset. On Friday, 12/19, the LCCN released the propaganda and fear-mongering article. Who went to the LCCN to inform them of a catastrophic well leak before the city residents even knew? And his piece was published at 4:07 p.m. on Friday, last Friday. So let's look at the timeline that we saw tonight, because we've used catastrophic, we've used emergency, we've used a lot of alarming words, but on 10/5, the city doing their job said, we've got a problem. October 5th, we have a problem. October 28th, 3 weeks later, we did an inspection. 3 days later, the company comes back and says, here's what's wrong. Then from 11/3 to 12/19, the city did nothing. You supposedly met on 12/19 to hear what was going on. That's really a coincidence of timing, that the people are starting to address you and tell you how unhappy they are, and yet you guys tell us it's catastrophic, it's emergency, we got to take care of it now. You knew in October. Stop with the fear-mongering. Give us the facts. If you can't find a way to get the 600-something K, let me start you off with this. How about we take back the 50K to Ubi Fest? We already have a few of those in the year. How about we take 20K back from the reestablishing the Economic Development Commission? How about take back the 200K towards ballot measures, including canceling your own term limits? How about the 285K you gave for the CCPA for additional unnecessary things? How about 64K for entertainment expenses for volunteers and dignitaries? How about 50K in council travel expenses? That'll get you to 669K, and that's a pretty good start. And if you really need us to balance your budget, get a workshop going. I work in finance at a major corporation. I'm happy to come in and help you balance your budget, but your pet projects will be gone. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to clarify one thing. The city council in 2014 did a Proposition 218 process, and the final rate increase took effect on July 1, 2020. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, that's correct. The
Okay,
first
thank
of-
you.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's been 5 years, not 4.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson has a question.
Yes, I have a question. It is not just the 600 something thousand that we need, correct? Because we have to import water, which is at almost $5 million, correct?
That's correct. The action recommended by staff this evening is for the $643,000 for the repair, and then a transfer of funds to spend approximately $2 million this fiscal year for import of water.
And that's what the budget amendment recommendation will address, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Denny McCartney. Denny McCartney. Is he here? Okay. Denny McCartney. Okay. Victor Clement.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members and my fellow citizens. My name is Victor Clement. I'm a Cerritos resident. My anniversary here in Cerritos will be 25 years next month. I've been around for a while, just kind of lurking in the shadows, I guess. This is my first time up here. I don't envy your positions at all. You guys seem to have a lot to deal with. But I only have only really one question from tonight's agenda. On the agenda report, it seems like you only got a recommendation for repair of the C4 well. So it's like a go, no-go type of proposition. And it seems to me, well, I would have liked to have seen some other alternatives put forward, so you'd have an opportunity to compare pricing. And for example, 3 years ago, $500,000 apparently was sunk into the C4 well for repair, and now it needs repair again. And who knows if it's only going to be another 3 years before that's shot. But it seems that also on the table is a replacement for it. And I have no idea, as a citizen, I have no idea of if replacing it now would be practical rather than chasing sunk costs in the existing well. And that was really my only question. And I hope there'll be an answer coming out somewhere soon about that, because I just have no idea if what's been proposed to you is the best solution or not. And since I've got plenty of time, I want to just let you know that I'm one of these citizens who's out there. My friends who live in neighboring communities are all envious of the fact that my water bill is so low. And I know I've been getting a great deal on water since I've moved to Cerritos. And I wouldn't mind paying more to make sure that that part of the infrastructure is safe and secure for the future. That's it. So I'm ready to pay more. My friends, they pay a lot more than what I pay. And I believe that if we actually end up paying more, we might tend to conserve more. All right, I'll leave the rest of the night to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clement. Al Reyes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Just to piggyback off what the gentleman said, I do not envy you at all. But to give a little perspective of what's going on here. Yeah, it really, really is your problem. But let's be honest, it's not your fault. I don't know why 20, 30 years ago, whoever sat in that chair or those chairs decided to start subsidizing water. That's not the way it's supposed to work. They decided a long time ago, like, oh, we're going to pay half the city's water bill. We're going to pay it. Don't worry about it. We're going to pay it for you. And so now everybody's gotten spoiled. By law, the end user is responsible for his or her water bill. Whether you're an individual, a business, you're responsible. Whatever city you do business in, wherever you live, you're responsible for your water bill. That's just the end of the conversation. It's not the city's job to make sure you have the lowest water rates around. Any city, anywhere. So tonight really is for you guys a profile and courage. It really, really is. Things have to get fixed. As we've talked about in other forums with commissioners and committees, paying these rates that Alvin has quoted for on the spot market or the open market at, I think, $1,600 per square foot, that's insane. And you're gonna do that over like, oh, why don't we, just gonna, do nothing? That's crazy. You're draining money out of the budget, which again, back to my original point, is that think about the 20, 25, 30 years, whatever it's been, that the former city manager was there, former council was there. On average, that's $8 to $9 million a year out of the budget. Over 30 years, there's your money. That's $240 million. Everything be fixed if everybody would just pay their fair share. I wish, I mean, again, as I've come to this, I've only figured this stuff out in 3 months. That's a ton of money, way more than the theater or the library. $240 million over 30 years. Everything that Alvin had on his wish list and Chris had on their wish list would be fixed. It'd be done. We wouldn't be I wouldn't be missing Monday Night Football. Somebody please tell me who won. Okay? So what we have here over the last 30 years is comfortable lies versus now an inconvenient truth. The dance is over and the band wants to get paid. And yeah, I feel bad. I was at the senior center today. I've made a couple trips over there. There's people that are really going to be hurt. But it can't be avoided. It's like we can't live in a world anymore where like, oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, they have money. Oh, but this over here, there's nothing to see here. We can't do that. It's time for us all to put on our pants, put on our big boy pants, say like, okay, this has to get handled. Because people on, whatever your financial situation, the wells don't care. The sewer line doesn't care. If you've ever been around a city where the sewer line ruptured, you don't want to be around that city because you can smell it going in there 5 miles away. And I'm sure Alvin and Chris will tell you, I don't know where that sewer line's going to break. We didn't, and the last meeting I had with somebody about like the water well, we really thought C4, it'll make it one more year. We can find a way to make it one more year. And yet we're here. Okay? Also, a water enterprise is supposed to be self-sustaining. It should, again, just to piggyback on my previous point, there's no way city general funds should be going to a water enterprise, ever. Again, it's not supposed to be making 10 million, 20 million, that would be, again, we're not trying to raise rates 500%, but it's got to sustain itself. And if it makes a little profit and that money gets going to the general fund, that's perfect. Or it kind of breaks even, that's perfect. But sustaining it at $8, $9 million a year is just crazy to me. And again, I work in economics, that's insane. What business, you want to talk about businesses, what business would do that? Yeah, we're losing money over here, but we'll just keep sustaining it. You know, we're making so much money over here, we'll just keep this losing part of our company alive. That's crazy. That makes no sense at all. To sum up, because it's been a long night already, and I didn't think I was going to be here this long. It's time to stop being penny wise and pound foolish. There are certain essential services. Water and sewer infrastructure is one of them. Yeah, I feel horrible. I mean, I used to work at the pool 100 years ago, and they need a new boiler. That boiler was built for the '84 Olympics, and it was built in 1982. But we are where we are. It's just, there's nothing to do about it now. If you have a hole in your roof, and we have an atmospheric river coming the next 4 days, and it's leaking, are you going to wait till the living room is destroyed and the kitchen is destroyed, and instead of a $15,000 repair, you're going to pay $150,000 to redo your whole house? Okay, exactly. Okay, so anyway, best of luck, council. I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate you doing, and again, city staff, well done. I've talked to several of you about it. Best of luck to you, and let's do what's right for the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. The Cerritos City Council received one written comment submitted by the deadline for item 5A as follows. The City of Cerritos General Fund can no longer afford capital improvement projects for our 60-year-old water and sewer infrastructure. If we don't approve the water and sewer adjusted rates, we won't be able to upgrade our aging 4 city wells, and will be forced to import water from the Colorado River, Northern Sierras, the Sacramento Delta, etc., which will cost 254% more, and we will pay more for emergency repairs like the 4 to 5 water leaks that Cerritos water pipes experience every month. The last increased water rates of 10% from 2014 to 2020 only paid for operational costs, not capital improvement projects, like the critically needed valve replacements, water treatment, well desander replacements, etc. If water rate adjustments aren't approved, city services and programs will be cut, like the one-day closing of the Cerritos Library, and our city will be spending and depleting its reserve funds, which should be safeguarded and used for sudden catastrophic events like January's Los Angeles wildfires just 40 miles away, where 18,500 buildings were destroyed. Perhaps we would be in a better financial situation today if Cerritos voters back in 2020 had passed the Measure C sales tax, which would have cost consumers 15 cents for a $20 purchase and would have raised approximately $11 million annually, but was unfortunately soundly defeated by over 2,500 votes. However painful the rate increases will be to deter future emergencies, we vote yes for the water and sewer rate adjustments and hope others will too. Norma and Alan Williamson, Cerritos residents. Are there any additional public speakers who have not spoken? I will close the public comment period. Does the council have any additional questions or comments? Councilmember Hong.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Say.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions that I do pay attention how people clap their hands, either pro, against. The people who against clap their hand to the people who pro that. I can see how each other do has pretty much the same comment. I do want to say to the public today, and usually I read Facebook, I read Instagram, I don't respond because that's my job. To me, I carry that. I want to work out, and I want to provide the best I can. I want to let Ms. Kang know I do have business background. Actually, in my past, I have a dual license for what is improvement. Even though my background nursing, but working in a hospital, I managed running a 4 department, almost 200 people there. I also own personal business home too. So, but when tonight you mentioned about the staff pensions, yes, I did study on that. That was 2020. I was wondering, say, what happened? Our Cerritos pension is so high compared to other city. That's on 2020. I do look at that. Okay, but I do want to mention here again, pension spending is not optional. These are legal obligations for work already performed, which they done already, and the agreement has done very beginning, sir. And the city must be paid them. What we can do is plan responsibility so we meet those obligations while still investing infrastructure and protecting public safety. But there's another thing I do want to mention that to you. I think all of us here, we're here. I don't want to finger point like others, but I think we should focus what can we do. Work together, not against each other's. I mean, I hate to say against, I mean, you have people, the audience here has your own personal opinion. I really admire your constantly a lot of your suggestion. I'm writing down every single one. And I'm looking what is necessary, not necessary. And I hate to compare, our job is really it's two kind of services we provide right now. One service is service to the public, and the other service is to the community. Some of the things you mentioned is a services. It's a city obligation need to do. Some other maybe we can cut, we can look for into future. I think we also need to look into what kind of revenue we can bring in. I think our Mayor Pro Tem mentioned about 626 night market. I don't know anybody hear about that now. It's very high one over San Gabriel area. They bring a lot of revenue. That's the city one that they say, hopefully we can look into what can we do. What can we improving? Same thing with CCPA. I know gentlemen said sell it out and give it away. That's a good thing to say, because I remember 2020, when I run for this position, I did study CCPA was 50 million was subsidized. It was almost 50 to 70. But now we're not. We work on that. Let's work on together on that one. I never buy tickets to CCPA. To me, it was expensive, but I'm starting doing that right now. I'm trying to help and see what can we do. We have 50,000 people in the Cerritos. If everyone, like I said again, buy one ticket, that helps the city. That's your job and my job. We work together. As Carla, you mentioned, I read it that way. You came out and talked even the last time and today. I do want to tell you, the Magnolia Power Plant of 2020, you probably remember former Mayor and Councilman Bruce Barrows. I got educated by him really well. I wrote it down here right away. I remember what he said. Magnolia Power Plant has played an important role in providing reliable electricity and conserving water in the region. Its efficiency and local generation benefit are strong advantages compared to older plants. However, but it still relies on natural gas, and this affects nowadays current practice now. It generates emissions and faces long-term transition pressures as California and utility move forward in the future clear energy sources. That's a future. That's a challenge to us now too. Some of the public may not pay attention, and even your water heater, you're trying to avoid to use gas. Everything goes electric. So that's another thing behind the probably did not probably know, or you probably did not. I did not present it out my knowledge here. My last question to Senator, and it's kind of we were talking about respect among each other. Same thing. I have family here. I have children here living in Cerritos. We love Cerritos, and I believe everyone here loves Cerritos because you're the resident here, right? Otherwise, you move out. And like the gentleman had mentioned about, I think this is my obligation. And I watch you, Carla. You clap your hands too. It's not you against. It really you think is reasonable. Let's work together. But however, I don't like senators, even Facebook talking about, I need to help, my face need help. That's disrespect. I went to school with a 2 master's degree. I'm not here just a joker here. I also run my own personal business, but I don't publish to everyone that my background. As a nurse, how much I can make to live in Cerritos, you probably know that. General. But I invested during my time because I know economics. Even I can foresee what's going to future. I'm worried about right now. I'm worried about the future because my husband will discuss, we better do something now. The things we need to fix are fixing now because there's crap's coming out. You probably know that too. So, however, Senator had mentioned about that I don't want to use the words that I'm talking about. Yes, I do. I want to make sure for comment I did say that. And again, then people here praise one person and not discourage the other person. That's so-called disrespect. I want this position because I want to do something. I have no other baggage behind my back. Oh, I want to serve back to the people, serve back to this community. I mentioned again, I want to bring it back again. I'm sorry, Mayor, I have to make this comment out. I mentioned 4th thing, revenue bond. I was one brought up, I want to ask the staff, give a pro and con, let the public to know why we're doing that. I'm not running against here. I come trying to battle back when my conversation with you or me disgrace me. I have family here. The revenue bond, I did ask the staff, what a pro and con, what's the option for me to make my choice, best choice. So in that way, if I can bring something back, if I can drop the rate, I wanted to, because I do too. I'm not just only one property here in Cerritos. So I also mentioned investment. That we do have some investment. I mentioned about use of reserve money. Those is a legit question that I asked the staff. And I also asked if they choose those projects, how are we going to communicate with the people? now, the CPA, Cerritos Park East, CPE. I don't like to take some project away from there because I do know how dangerous water there. I walk in the pool, it was cold. To some of the old people, it may have caused some contractions. And that's because, the cold water stimulate your nerve. You could have felt right there. And that's the safety there too. Hot water, when you go in shower room, hot and cold right there. And when I turn the water, when people told me, I did not believe what they said. And I went there. You know how we have younger infant there. The younger stage ages for the younger infant learning how to swim, the age is 6 months, even less than that. You know how fragile their skin is. They can burn from there. Who's going to pay for that? So that was my project delay and communication. How are we going to help those people? One side would talk about budget balance, and the other side would think about the patient, people, I hate to say patient is my background, the safety issue. How are we going to do it? You ask me, how do I do it? And I hate to say about $135 every month you have to pay it. It's an easy case to me. No, it's not easy for me. It wasn't under my budget either. I want to go travel, but now I have to think about it twice now. The window my house got broken in 2 times. I have the special window now in my house to be safe in my house. I can open my window at nighttime. I didn't go on vacation for 2-3 years because that cost me arm and legs. $15,000 I pay for to protect my house. I want to share that. I really want to thank you people here tonight. I really, really appreciate it. So I don't think I don't make sense. I don't know what I'm talking about. I do think I know what I'm talking about. I want to use reserve money. I want to look into the investing money. And I talked to the attorney. The attorney said she had no finance background, but I tell you, she's working with other places too. They run for this kind of business. They know what's the budgeting things going on there. We're not the only one increase the water rate. We're not the only one has major issues right now. My final, thank you, Mayor. My final to everyone at home watching and those present here. Sophia, want to thank you. It's clear that you care deeply about our city, just as I do. As a council member since May, I have worked closely with my colleague and our mayor. We may have different perspectives at times, but as far as I am aware, we are united and in one responsibility: protect public safety. I support immediately action while also preserving the city financial stability for today and the future. I am concerned about the future. If you were here the last meeting, that the staff had presented such a great chart. That's one of my major, I want to tell you, Mr. King. I use AI a lot. I just want to let you know. When you talk to me quickly, I type it out right away, and I that's my job, because I do a lot of evaluation on that piece, because my students use A1 writing a graduate diploma, C3, so I know pretty well. So me here is not just I don't want to lecture people, it's not my job. Today, I just want to share my thought. And I really see a lot of people here, like Carlo and gentleman here with long hair. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I know Carlo a couple of times he came to talk about it. I want to thank you all, really. So I want to thank you, the mayor, for supporting me along this journey. It has been a valuable experience, and I am grateful for it. To the public, I want to say, let's work together, not divide ourselves. We are living in Cerritos. No one wants harm to come to the city as we call home. And I do want to mention again, our manager and our district attorney, they're all Cerritos residents. So you think they want to raise too? Maybe not, but let's work together. We must have solution come out. But for tonight, I would like to ask if we can avoid the CCPA. Not avoid Cerritos swimming pool, CPA. I'm nervous now. Cerritos Park East, CPE, if you can, because it is a lot of really, I look at the service not just only for the middle person, and me from the old to the young generation, that if we can avoid it. And I also suggest if we have to open the reserve, if we can, can we take one piece and another? I don't know how we're going to do it tonight, but I just want to throw out, let's work together. But let's work together, is this your obligation to pay the water bill or the city obligation for pay the water bill. The evidence had the proof in the past. The evidence has proof in the past from 2014, 2020, and 2023. We're all aware there's an issue there. And people trying, some of the people I have to say may not, like Ken say, I'm a major in this piece, may not, Mr. Ken, right? May not expertise an area, so they miss that. But I thank you for the new, people here, most of 2 years in here, they identify the problem, identify the issue, and thank you, the mayor, to say, you know what? No, we had to do something now. They were here before too. Their hair was haircut tonight too. Not before. But that's, like Carla said, let's respect each other's, please. And I have to say, Senator, you need to apologize to me too. I don't know, I made it clear because same people ask the same question and turn around, I don't want to use the right words, but I think in the future, we all need to speak productively and respectfully among each others. And let's be kind. That's all I'm asking today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. Councilmember Polito, do you have any additional questions or comments?
No, I don't. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Forsyth. We've closed public comment. I'm sorry. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Linda Johnson, do you have any additional questions or comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to be clear. Council didn't receive a copy of the staff report till about 15 minutes prior to the meeting. That's when we received it. We were rushed to read it. And when we realized that copies needed to be made for members of the community, copies were made. That is the reason why the mayor took a break, to allow members of the community to also receive and read a copy of it. I also want to clarify, I believe Mr. Stallings referred to the C5 well. Robert, can you please provide clarifications between the C5 and C4 well?
Yes, the C5 well is an identified well location. The well was dug several years ago, but it's never been on operation. The city has been holding that site for a future pump and other equipment build out. That is something that is contemplated in the next several years, not within the next 5-year period, but in a future period, to help add to the city's water supply. And the more wells you have, the more that they can rest, and the more that wells can rest, then we avoid problems like what we've described tonight at C4. So it's hard on them to operate 24/7, and that's why we're looking to finish building out well C5. Well C4 was the one that was identified that Mr. Papa described previously that had issues of manganese, arsenic, et cetera. So that is one that already we've been planning to reconstruct with an added treatment because of those issues.
Thank you, Robert. I also want to thank you, Mr. Stallings. Thank you. Just want to make sure you got the right information. Also, I want to address concerns about our budget, that we have an Economic Development Commission. That is something, we talk about wanting the city making money. That's why you need an Economic Development Commission. Their purpose is to attract businesses, create jobs, support existing businesses, expand the tax base. So how can we talk about bringing in money if we do not have a commission that is tasked to do so? So I want to thank my commissioner who is here, Al Reyes, for being on the Economic Development Commission, and appreciate the work that they do. So that is why it is back. Should not have gone away, but it is back. And also, I am going to talk about Ube Fest. Yes, original budget was $50,000. The council reduced it to $30,000. That is a typical expense for a festival such as Diwali Festival or Ube Fest, any festival that is brought to the city. Now, some may say they don't appreciate festivals, and they have the right to do so. However, festivals, community programs, cultural programs is what brings the community together. Ube Fest in April, and we've said it many times, The ones that we've had in the past in September, October, and December were night markets. The big one is in April, which is a 2-day festival, and we'll have programming, entertainment, and all of that to bring the community together. And again, festivals bring in economic development. As far as conferences, we are also told, let's cut the budget for conferences. You can't learn everything in a meeting 2 times a week in a council meeting. We have to go out, we have to learn. Why else did we find out about drones? Why else did we find out about ALPR cameras? Why else did we find out about best practices that we should not be using general fund money to fund enterprise funds? That is where we learn best practices. But more importantly, these conferences allow us to serve on committees. So we're just not going there and attending sessions. There are breakout sessions where there's committees. There's a public safety committee, there is liability committee, there's all kinds of committees, and we serve on them, which is a plus for the city. That means we have a seat at the table. We are in a position to make impactful decisions that benefit our city. Like I've said before, I sit on public safety. How else am I going to advocate for my residents if I don't sit on that committee to tell them, yes, we need to fund Prop 36. That was one of the things I want to say that I'm proud of, that I've accomplished. So that too is I don't know, you gotta also, cutting a budget is not as simple as chopping away and putting away all the unnecessary things, because our staff works hard. They don't develop a budget overnight. It is months in the making. They have meetings, departmental meetings, director meetings to develop a budget that best fits the needs of our residents, the needs that every resident has become accustomed to. They've become accustomed to what Cerritos offers, and they're in a difficult position to also cut. They don't want to do that. They don't want to cut, but they have to. We have to make cuts here and there. And many times Robert does have to go back and tell the department heads, hey, you need to trim a little bit. And it's quite difficult, especially when we have so much deferred maintenance going on. Residents complain, why wasn't deferred maintenance done? And that's because budgets are cut. So that is why, again, we have Economic Development Commission, bring up revenue in our city. What we're doing here is not fear-mongering or being an alarmist. We are here. It is real. If you really want to question and see the condition of the wells, I'm sure that our director or our staff can show them to you. I've seen it. I've seen the gravel and sand as it comes out. It is not safe and it is not clean. We also talk about cutting cultural events. Cut sister cities, cut the CCPA. Those aren't the issues. Even if we were to cut all of that, we will never come up with the $25 million needed to address the water infrastructure. And that is just $25 million needed for critical projects. Where in the budget would you cut that? You cannot. That is the reason why we are asking residents, please understand that you need to pay for the true cost of water. And that I realize, as Councilmember Hong said, it's too fast, too high. It's not fast. We've been talking about it for years. It's too high, yes, because we have a 5-year limit to get it to what the Prop 218 says. We can't extend it over 10 years. It has to be 5 years. So again, I apologize if some members of the public felt I was bullying her or being rude to her, but think about what you do on social media. You're a bully too. You attack, you, Carla, you. Yeah, and so I will say that,
All right.
It's really disheartening to see what you write in those comments to belittle residents. It's really sad. So I'm gonna speak to I'm sorry, he's interrupting me.
Mr. Forsyth, please, I closed public comment. Thank you, Mr. Forsyth. Okay.
Not you. You've said a lot of things about me. I'm not addressing you. I will meet with you on Monday the 29th, and you can pour out your heart to me. Are you going to answer? They should have told you already. I'm going to meet you.
I know that you're a
Okay, so
Mayor.
anyways, that's not, I'm
Okay,
I'm
let-
speaking, we let you speak. Thank you.
And-
So
and
bottom
let's
line
be
is.
everybody, let's be respectful to each other.
Thank you, Mayor.
So the
Thank you.
bottom line is residents want to see the city address the infrastructure issues that we have. So right now, we are in a crisis where we have to make budget amendments, and we will. Whenever it's appropriate, I'll make a motion, but I will stop right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. And Councilmember Say wants to make a comment or question?
Question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, this question to you, Manager Robert, Mr. Lopez. I want to thank you again. It's been long term kind of quite a long day. And I also want to thank you, answer my question all the time, no matter what time, you always answer for me. And I appreciate it. I did mention about the reserve investment money that we have on the hand. I do know I am a concern about the long-term health of our city reserves, because I remember in 2020 we have 100 million there for a reserve, and then after I got elected, now 2025 was like down to 50 to 40 millions there, and the number has declined about this month. When we must be respond to the emergency, can we use that? I hate to I hate to cut the public services and the safety issue there. And can we do some kind of half and half, manage from there? I know that's what we're looking for today. Find the funding, find the way to solve this emergency issue. I just want to hear from you.
Yes, thank you. So yes, generally speaking, general fund reserves, with the reserve policy that we have, there is the intent that it's rainy day fund, right? It's for when there's an emergency that happens where the funds can be used. So that is possible. I also, at the last meeting at our budget study session, received very clear direction, unanimous direction from the City Council to bring forth in the new fiscal year a balanced budget. So my intent this evening in recommending a transfer rather than additional spending was in the spirit of that direction, to utilize funds that have already been allocated for one purpose and instead use it for this purpose rather than further burdening the general fund revenue that we currently have.
I kind of understand that at this point, I did ask for the bond, the revenue one too, and I do know what's going on because I'm from school district, so I know the bond issues and pro and cons there, and so like I thank you, Ms. Lee had given me so much information, legal advice. I really appreciate.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, we serve as bond counsel for all of our public agencies. So if you're talking about the information that you're receiving, it's as bond counsel. Elshire and Winder has probably been bond counsel to probably $1 billion in bond funding or refunding over the 25 years that we've been in existence. So when we are talking about the lane in which we drive, it is a wide lane. Thank you.
Yeah, I thank you so much too. My daughter-in-law is one of the big finance corporations, so I did check with her. And she did say about the same thing what you just mentioned about. It was not recommended in short time now. And also, like you mentioned, rate is low right now, but I prefer rates high because you can always refinance and kind of drop that. I don't know. I wish we can take some from reserve and then also come with some other slowly fix those projects that we plan to do. If we postpone the project, when do we then pick up again to complete our project for safety matter?
So we are currently preparing the fiscal year budget for fiscal year 2026, 2027. So these projects that were identified for deferral will be evaluated as we present that budget. Ultimately what it comes down to is what does our revenue forecast look like next year? What is our general fund reserve balance? And with all that given, and as well as what happens with the proposed water and sewer rate adjustments, that'll all feed into the package that we present as a recommended budget for next year. But what I did hear very clearly was to present a balanced budget.
Okay. So you're talking about the fiscal year, which is 2025 to 2026. The next one will be 2027. So we can carry back the project. I'm sorry if I misunderstood you.
The current fiscal year is 25-26, and we are working on the next fiscal year's budget for 26-27. It starts July 1st, 2026. The earliest we could defer the swim center project would be that fiscal year if the transfer is approved tonight. But I cannot guarantee that until we look at the full financial picture, and we'll be ready to present that recommendation in the spring.
I understand the CPE has a lot of need to repair. Can we pick up one or two of the major things to repair first? So we use part of them, not entire project.
Yeah, several years ago, the city commissioned a study. A consultant went through the swim center facility and identified several $1 million of repair.
I know.
There's issues with the roof. There's issues with the skylights. There's issues with other aspects of the building. The boiler was identified as the most critical and urgent of those items because it deals with the direct impact to the users of the actual swimming pool. So that was the first phase of a much larger rehabilitation project for the swim center. We simply do not have the funds right now to fund any of those other items other than the boiler repair, the boiler replacement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. One comment I wanted to make is about travel and conferences by the City Council, and one example of how travel and conferences is not just an expense of the council that does not reap any benefits. For example, the number one example is National League of Cities conference in Washington, D.C. Council member Chong Vo and I attended the National League of Cities conference in Washington, D.C. Over the years, and at that conference, we had the opportunity to meet with our Congress member, Michelle Steele, and through meeting with her and advocating for our city with Congress member Michelle Steele multiple times while she was in office, Congress member Steele was responsible in responding to our advocacy for the city of Cerritos. She was responsible for having the federal government award us $5 million towards the Del Amo Bridge project, and we received that $5 million. So is that $5 million in our hands currently, City Manager?
We are taking the steps needed from Caltrans to secure the funds. It is earmarked for Cerritos, so it is ours to obtain, but we're going through the process, the paperwork, et cetera, to bring it home.
And you are informed about that process?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So thank you to Congressmember Michelle Steele through building up collaboration and communication with Congressmember Steele in Washington, D.C., in her Washington, D.C. office while attending the National League of Cities conference. Councilmember Chong Vo, Mayor Pro Tem Linda Johnson, and I had the opportunity to talk with Congressmember Steele about the needs of Cerritos in her office in Washington, D.C. Also, more recently, attending National League of Cities in Washington, D.C., I have had the opportunity in March of this year to meet with our current Congressmember Derek Tran in Washington, D.C., where I presented him his very first city tile as a new Congress member. He had just gotten elected in the November 2024 election to be our Congress member for Congressional District 45. So when I attended the National League of Cities conference in Washington, D.C., and I had a scheduled meeting with him, and I presented him with a city tile, and then I met with him and his staff regarding the continuing needs of our Del Amo Bridge project, which has a $30 million plus price tag that we're splitting with our neighboring cities who are going to likewise benefit from the Del Amo Bridge project. Directly resulting from that communication and collaboration with our new Congress member and meeting with him in his Washington, D.C. office as a new Congress member, he has announced to us that he has submitted to the federal government to award us an additional $5 million on top of the $5 million that we received from his predecessor in Congress. So, and through that communication and building up a relationship with our new Congress member, that has its roots in meeting with him in Washington, D.C., in his Washington, D.C. office. I got an update from his chief of staff on December 11. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the community project funding request for $5 million. The dollars for Del Amo Bridge renovations has made it into the final appropriations language, but we are at the mercy of the majority who needs to work through the full year appropriations bill so the money for this project can progress. So we have to have a seat at the table, whether it's in Sacramento or in Washington, D.C., to advocate for our city, our residents, to get these federal funds and these state funds. If you're not seen or not heard, they're going to forget about you. And the city manager and I are scheduled to go to Washington, D.C. in February to advocate for our city of Cerritos alongside our colleagues from the gateway cities regarding the Southeast Gateway Line light rail train that's going to go from downtown and terminating in Artesia with a proposed station in Cerritos. And one of the goals of advocating for the city of Cerritos regarding the Southeast Gateway Line, whether it's in Sacramento or in Washington, D.C., is the city manager and myself and the city council, we are trying to get millions and millions of dollars at minimum to be covered by Metro. And we're trying to get to that goal, working together with our Gateway Cities colleagues, but Robert and I specifically for Cerritos, we're trying to convince Metro to cover those millions of dollars that on the books the city of Cerritos is responsible for, but there's a pathway to getting Metro to cover it with the help of our state legislators and our federal legislators. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, we are currently in discussions with Metro regarding that opportunity.
Thank you. And that's why we're going to Washington, D.C. with our Gateway Cities colleagues in February to advocate for the Southeast Gateway Line with our Gateway City colleagues. And when you're there with all those other cities, it's noticeable. And when you're not there, that's also noticeable. And all those other cities are going to be primarily looking out for themselves. If Robert and I are not there, nobody else is going to mention Cerritos. And lastly, my council colleagues and I have had the opportunity in attending Sacramento conferences to meet with our Assembly member, Sharon Quirk Silva, and our State Senator, Tony Strickland. And through our repeated advocacy on behalf of Cerritos, asking them for help, asking them about our interest in buying a Caltrans property, that we were pounding sand because it's hard to get to the right person in Caltrans. Through asking State Senator Tony Strickland in his office and asking Assemblymember Sharon Quicksilva in her office, asking them to help connect us and communicate with Caltrans, the city of Cerritos now has clear communication with Caltrans regarding an opportunity to obtain Caltrans property in the northeast section of northeast, close to the northeast border of Cerritos, property that we can turn into a more valuable opportunity for our city of Cerritos, and for residents and for businesses. And that would not, I can say that would not have happened if it wasn't for the help of our state senator and our assembly member by us advocating for that goal in their offices. Is that about right, City Manager?
Yes, thanks to that, we've been working with Caltrans more cooperatively.
Thank you. And that's a multi-million, tens of $1 million property, right? Okay, thank you. So, regarding, I just want, we because we're getting because the city council has the opportunity of getting information from City Hall, from the city manager's office, from staff, sometimes these things are more clear, but we have to make sure the residents have that same clarity. So C3 well, there is no C3 well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so there is no C3 well. There's only four wells that the city of Cerritos talks about: C1, C2, C4, and C5. Okay, so regarding C5, which C5 has never been in operation, correct?
That's correct.
If the city council gave direction to proceed with C5, when could it be brought online?
I'll defer to Mr. Papa because we've sketched out the timing of all of our wells. You can, Alvin, if you can outline when C5 design and construction would occur, please.
If we had funding approved to complete the C5 well, it would probably take about 3 to 4 years to get it online.
And is currently contemplated in the current schedule, when would C5 design start?
Well, C5.
Assuming the rate adjustment is successful.
Thank you, City Manager Lopez. Well, actually, C5 design was underway. However, due to limited funding and it was unclear whether or not when it could be funded, the project has been shelved. And so there was a little bit of preliminary design that was started. However, in the interest of not expending funding on design without knowing whether or not the project could be constructed, the project has been shelved. So
it's not currently planned in the 5-year period that we're discussing as a community, but in a future 5-year period, that's when it would occur.
Thank you. So, one of the public comments we got, it made me, I had been thinking about this, but one of the public comments made me think, we do need to talk about, just like we talked about opportunity costs, about how it's going to cost an extra $2,084,185 if we were to do nothing and not repair well C4. We also need to talk about options, so the city council knows that we're making an informed decision, and the residents who want to know about options, did we consider all the options? So maybe I can make it as simple as possible. If the city council moves forward with this agenda item and we approve the contract and we approve the budget transfer and we move forward with repairing well C4, when will well C4 be, oh, I'm sorry. If we move forward with this agenda report, this agenda item, when will well C4 replacement well be completed and up and running? And as another option, option B, if we move forward with continuing the progress of well C5, when will well C5 be up and running? I want to know when will it be up and running, because I want to know which well we can get up and running first.
With regards to the C4 well, if approved, we would get the replacement well should be up and running by mid 2029, and that's if everything goes as planned. With regards to the C3 well,
C5.
C5. I'm sorry.
There is no C3.
Yes, it's
Okay.
it's a little bit farther behind, so potentially maybe spring 2030.
So if we want a third working well as soon as possible, a third new working well as soon as possible, it has to be well C4.
Well, C4 would be recommended, and the reason C4 is being recommended is because there is PFOS in the water, and if we do not have a well in place by 2031, then we will not be able to serve water out of that well. We will not meet the regulatory limits for PFOS. So we
Which well are you talking about has the PFAS?
C4.
Okay, thank you. So C4 is what's recommended, with you considering well C5 in the current situation for well C5. Looking at C5 and C4, you and Robert are recommending getting the replacement well at C4.
Correct. And C4, the design is currently approaching 30%. So they've made significant progress, and we know the type of treatment that will be needed. And so there's a lot of good momentum. So
Thank you. Thank you. I share Councilmember Say's concern about our Cerritos Park East Swim Center and the boiler, which is part of the Swim Fitness Center rehabilitation. And, you know, the agenda report explains that, you know, we can, there's a current water boiler, the current water boiler system is currently in operation. But there remains a risk of the system failing and the swimming pool water receiving no heat. There's that risk. So that's why we had planned in the 25-26 budget to do this capital improvement project of replacing the boiler. And now, because of this catastrophic failure of well C4, we need to make hard decisions with our budget. And what I'm thinking, Councilmember Say, is because there's a current water boiler that's in operation, even though it needs to be, it does need to be replaced. What I'd like to do is keep a standing agenda item to consider the Swim Fitness Center rehabilitation project number 2201, so that the moment the current boiler breaks and stops working at the next city council meeting, we can address it and perhaps approve that the city proceed with replacing the boiler. And then that way, it's the soonest possible that the city council can consider a new boiler if we have it as a standing agenda item.
I like the idea, but what about the reserve thing? Can we use that fund from there? Would that be possible? I know totally it's about $2,643,000. Am I right? Totally. If we can take, I think I read somewhere it's like but you really give the good recommendation, and I hate to not to agree with you because overall we're trying to find a budget. How are we going to spend the money wisely?
I'm just saying, let's try to squeeze out.
I'll accept that. I'll accept that,
Let's
sir.
just try to squeeze however much life we can get out of this current water boiler that is in operation, and the staff has informed us. Back in June, when we approved the budget, they informed us that there's a risk of it failing, and that's why we approved it back in June. And it's been, working these last couple of months, and let's just try to squeeze out some more months. But like I said, if we have it as a standing item, you understand what I'm trying to accomplish here, city attorney and city manager. If we have it as a standing item, if it breaks down, we don't have to wait for 2 meetings to deal with it. We can deal with it at the next meeting. And I could ask for council consensus, separate from whatever motion we make. I can ask for council consensus to have a standing item to review and consider project number 20201, the Switten Fitness Center rehabilitation. That way, if it breaks down, the city council can consider it at the next meeting.
Yeah, if that's the direction of the city council, we can proceed with that direction.
I concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, council colleagues. So does anyone have a motion regarding agenda item 5A?
I have a motion.
Okay,
I move to approve staff recommendation for items 1 through 4.
Second.
can we vote on our screens? Assistant City Attorney?
Yes, so staff verified that the electronic voting should be active on your screen.
Success. Nope, it's not showing up. Let's have a roll call vote. It was
Sure.
moved by Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, and it was seconded by Councilmember Hong to approve the staff recommendation. And let's have a roll call vote.
Okay, Councilmember Hong,
Aye.
Councilmember Polito,
Aye.
Councilmember Say,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Yokoyama.
Yes.
The motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you, council colleagues. Thank you to the attendees. Thank you to the public speakers. We appreciate hearing from you, from the public. And I will now adjourn the special meeting of the Cerritos City Council. Our next meeting is on January 12, 2026, 7 p.m. here in the City Council chambers. Have a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Thank you.